Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. I was in my head. I was thinking if I could do some kind of Gamescom thing in there, international, German. I couldn't get anything out of the gate there. It just got a.
Hey, you gave it your best shot.
Yeah, it's like the start in Mario Kart. The wheels were just spinning at the starting line there. I held down the button too long.
Hit it before the second light, not immediately after.
Yeah. Sorry about it. Oh man, Alex Navarro, how are you?
Oh, I'm just fine. I have a new angle now, and I'm kind of digging it. I think I might stick at least with some version of this from now on.
Oh, you're gonna mess up all of our layouts. Every single one of the layouts. Thank you very
Look, man, that other view, it's like you were seeing too much of what was on the shelves that is not like display stuff. It was like, these are all my fucking tubs and wires and shit. Here, it's just like, it's all fucking gamer room.
I do like that in this shot. Folks can't see it at home, but there is a proton pack in your shot.
Hanging off the door to the electrical panel.
Brad Shoemaker, you've still got the duck in your shot. The duck shot.
Guten Tag.
There you go. Okay.
Guten Duck.
Okay.
I don't know. Yes, wooden duck. Guten Tag.
Guten Tag means wooden duck in German.
What is duck in German? Anybody?
Ein Ducken.
Yeah. Duck sounds German to me, so I'm just going to go with that one.
Enta.
Okay, great.
Enta, apparently, is how you use die Enta.
Okay.
German is maybe my favorite language to invent words for.
Speak duck and Enta. We are here. We saw Gamescom's opening night live. We'll talk a little bit about that. I'm sure at some point. Not really too much to get into, so I don't think we're gonna have a dedicated block on it.
Not a lot of real new stuff there.
Yeah.
Like I went through all the news for this podcast, and it didn't once occur to me to go pull a roundup of Gamescom stuff from that stream.
Kind of a known quantity.
Like Age of Empires 4 surprise released on the Xbox.
Right.
I think is that just about the only piece of news?
And that's only really a surprise in the sense that like it happened that day as opposed to, at some point they were probably going to put that thing on Xbox.
I think that was announced.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think it was just the surprise was just that it was out right then.
Which is always nice. I enjoy that when they do that.
We saw more stuff from that Desert Online, which
Crimson Desert. Black Desert Online is the previous thing, which was the MMO, which is this is in the same universe, but this I think is a single-player open world game that is not online, but it is still part of the Desert franchise.
Which is probably, it's not necessarily newly announced, but the thing that I was like, okay, well, this kind of made it onto a radar of mine, at least.
Like the most elaborate looking Assassin's Creed ever made.
And then just to kind of bring things full circle here, because I was going to mention this anyway, that Thank Goodness You're Here, or that Panic game.
Yeah, Panic, putting out a new game. They've been doing Playdate stuff for the last 2 years or whatever, but what was the last actual game they put out? Untitled Goose Game, maybe?
That was their last big one. I don't know. They might have put something else in the interim out that I just didn't catch, but
that game looks. I don't know what the gameplay actually is, but the trailer was fun and silly and goofy. It looked like a game that should be coming out on like the Vita or something, if the Vita still existed. But also the one thing during that entire event that got our YouTube video blocked in the United States. So while a very fun trailer. I freaking 20 seconds of audio blocked in the entire United States, Japan, and a bunch of other territories.
They can't just give us 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
I'm not here to tell anyone how to do their job because that is rude, and I'm not going to do that. But that said, if I was running one of these presentations, like an opening night live or a Summer Games Fest or something that Jeff Keighley was running, I'm talking to you, Jeff. I would maybe put in a concession that if you are going to submit a trailer for this thing, you have to clear the rights for streaming.
I'll take you one even more just legal here, where I kind of dug through because I was really kind of mad into YouTube's official policy stuff, and they state if you're going to make a claim, you need to have looked over the content to not make frivolous claims.
Yes.
And I'm going to say all of our stuff comes back from auto matching, and that they are not actually looking at the context of our claim, which would be in an editorial capacity to talk over this presentation. So I'm going to say
We are doing transformative work here.
I'm going to say it is
damn right.
Not only transformative, it is not. It is promotional because we are looking at their commercial, which is another thing. But also, in the context of the market, we are not stealing market share from that game. We are basically,
if anything, we are contributing to it.
Yeah. Or at least from the song. I don't know. Maybe this is the only way people will listen to that song is from us talking over the trailer for that song, and that's their case. Anyway,
it's just absurd. It's one of those absurd things. It feels like
it
should have been fixed years ago, and somehow still hasn't been.
It's my long way of saying, look, if that video is not available in your territory, which in this case means the United States at this point, I'm trying to put it up on our Patreon for everybody to see, and also hopefully the Twitch archive doesn't have it muted for that, because it takes down the entire video.
Yeah.
And in my dispute this time, I even added a thing that was like, look, I'd rather not edit out your commercial from this thing, your promotional materials. Anyway, that's my grievance. That's that game looks neat and fun, and was maybe one of my favorite things to see during that Gamescom.
Our weekly airing of grievances is over.
Oh man. Anything else going on?
Fucking video games, man. They're coming. And they don't stop coming.
Playing Starfield.
Yeah.
It's going on. We should mention at the top here.
Yes.
If I don't think we're not light on games on the podcast this week, but certainly trying to spend as much time with Starfield as possible in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And the embargo for that thing will necessitate that we run this podcast just a tad bit late next week.
Well, probably a day late for Patreon subscribers. Usually get it on Wednesday. The embargo is in Thursday in the mid-afternoon there on the East Coast. So the podcast will go up there.
The public feed, that's only, I think it's like 6 hours later.
6 hours, yeah.
Yeah, so yes.
6 a.m. Eastern, I think.
Podcast will only be 6 hours late for public listeners next week.
Yeah.
So we can talk about Starfield.
Yeah, because we're all touching it, we're all playing it, and that'll be next week's podcast. Again, if you don't see it in the main feed popping up, especially on the Patreon feed popping up on Wednesday, it's because we have to hold it for the embargo for Starfield, which I suspect we will be spending a majority of our gaming talking time talking about that game. But we've got a bunch of other stuff to talk about today. Let's start with Alex. You went and saw some Sega stuff.
Yeah, some of which I can talk. In fact, almost all of which I can talk about, except for one game, which has a separate embargo, which is the Sonic Superstars. So I guess I can't talk about that until next week. Sonic commands his own embargo, as we all know.
Yes.
But they did have a bunch of other stuff there. I didn't get a chance to play all of it, but I did get a chance to play the new Yakuza Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, and also the Persona 3 remake, which is coming pretty soon, I think. And I saw a little bit of the Persona 5 Tactica game as well.
Where do you want to start?
Let's just start with the Yakuza, Like a Dragon, because that is, that's my wheelhouse. That's where I live, is in Kamurocho.
I still can't, man. I don't think I'm ever going to get used to it.
Like a Dragon?
I keep seeing people refer to Like a Dragon Gaiden, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like a Dragon came out like 3 years ago now. What? Mm-hmm. Oh, right.
Yes. That is now the franchise. So this is the side story that is, from what I understand, a relatively full-fledged game, though probably not the full version of a Yakuza game, because they are making another one of those, I think, that comes out next year, featuring Ichiban. But this is a story about what's going on with Kiryu while all this other stuff is happening with Ichiban and his friends. And so I'm going to get into a very tiny bit of Like a Dragon spoilers here, because...
Okay.
And a little bit of what was going on with Kiryu prior to that, because I kind of need that to set this up. But the gist of it is that, where Kiryu is in the storyline of all things like a Dragon is that he's gone. He's checked out. He faked his own death, basically at the end of 6, and is in hiding, more or less, to protect the people around him because of all the shit that he knows and that he has gotten involved in. I'll let you play Yakuza 6 to figure out what all that was, but...
Okay.
So he shows up very briefly in 7, in a very, Kiryu's here, shit, kind of cameo. And he just kind of shows up, beats a bunch of people's asses, and then leaves. And then you have, one longish conversation with him, if I remember correctly. where he doesn't really allude to what he's doing, but just kind of says, "Hey, I'm out here. I'm around."
He doesn't promote his game in that.
No.
Look for me in like a Dragon Gaiden.
No. So the setup for this seems to be that Kiryu is now working for shadow government stuff. The man who erased his name is basically saying, "We took away your name, you now have this code name, and now you're going to go do secret ops for us.
Burn your fingerprints off style stuff." Okay.
So the demo I played didn't set up any of that stuff. It did not say like what agency he's working for, how he ended up doing this, any of that. What it did do was introduce one new locale, which I assume isn't the only locale that you go to in the game, but it seems like it's a pivotal one, called the Castle. Which is a gigantic floating barge full of sin.
Okay, great.
Okay.
It is like the walls of it are all shipping containers around the edge of the boat, but on the inside is a gigantic recreation of, I think they said Kyoto Castle, though I don't remember exactly. Okay. And then a whole bunch of like gambling halls, clothing stores, hostess clubs, a fucking ring, get in the ring, fucking, pit fighter competition. And you're there to infiltrate something, though they don't really say what it is. It's
like, what is it, like Shadowloo, or like its own like international waters? What's the Metal Gear one? That the
there's Outer Heaven.
Like the place that is its own base, the place for retired mercs.
Yeah, that's Outer Heaven.
So it's like that, except what if it was just a place where you go to fucking spend money and fight?
Wait, when you say, did you say fucking spend money or fuck and spend money?
Yeah, you could go with either.
Okay.
I mean, there's no actual fucking, though there is a hostess club minigame, and they got live action hostesses to talk to them. It's FMV.
Finally,
Yes.
FMV in my Yakuza game.
Yeah.
Wait, there's actual FMV?
There's actual FMV of the girls, yes.
Weird.
I only got to talk to one of them, but it was very uncanny and weird talking to a real hostess lady while everything else is in game. But so all they really let you do in the demo is wander around this place a little bit, try out all the different mini games. Like you can go into the casino, play casino games. You can go, the thing you're supposed to do at the end is go enter the tournament and then go fight a bunch of guys.
Oh, okay. It's part of the narrative.
Yeah.
Style? Okay.
And so they showed off a couple of the fighting styles, one of which is just the straight up like Yakuza martial arts style. Like it's a bunch of his old fighting styles combined into one. And then there's the secret agent one, which is he has a fucking laser tripwire thing that he uses to lasso dudes.
What?
He's got grenades. He's got a drone that he can sort of launch out. It's very like, okay, what are some secret agent powers we can give him without just giving him a gun?
Okay. I mean, Kiryu's kind of an idiot, but does this fit? Like with these, like, does he seem suave? Because I feel like that was never his thing.
The thing about Kiryu is that he's a dope.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he's not, like, he doesn't have a lot of book smarts, but he has a lot of savvy and street smarts.
Okay, yeah.
So he's very good at adapting to situations, very ridiculous situations, I might add. So I don't think putting him into a secret agent thing is actually that far afield of what he's capable of.
Interesting. I have not played any of the Yakuza games except 7. I would have said you just described Ichiban. Like I always assumed Kiryu was the like highly competent, whip smart, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Extremely on top of and able to handle his business. And Ichiban was the dope, but maybe they're more alike than I thought.
Here's what it is. Like, Kiryu's a dad dope. Like, Kiryu is a guy who, again, he can adapt to anything. He's very cool under pressure. Maybe the single greatest fighter that the world has ever known. But, when he's presented with stuff like, hey, do you want to know how to talk to sexy ladies on the computer? He's like, live chatto?
Right, yeah.
Like, if you present, like, I think in Zero, the first time he's presented with the concept of a cell phone, it's like magic has been put in front of him.
Is that the bag phone? Is that the...
I think so, yeah. The guy with the giant backpack phone,
yeah.
So, like, that's his thing, is that, like, he's not particularly plugged into the way, like, the evolving ways of the world, but if you show him that stuff, he will learn it pretty quick. Yeah. Ichiban is similar, but Ichiban is also, like, the sort of dude who throws himself whole cloth into anything without much thought, whereas Kiryu, I think, is a little more thoughtful about what he does.
Also, I feel like Kiryu, the lovable thing about him is like he's kind of a sucker for a sob story, right?
Totally.
Like, oh, but come on, I left my favorite hamburger on the bed. Could you just beat up these 18 guys to get my...
Yes.
It's got a double beef patty. Oh, a double beef patty. Oh, definitely, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, if it's got a double beef, absolutely.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, the difference is that, like, Kiryu would be like, that was interesting. I learned a valuable lesson in this. Where Ishiba's like, you're my friend now. We're going to do everything. This is awesome. Let's I'm going to hang out with you. I'm going to save your hamburger. It's going to be great.
Yeah, yes.
Granted, we've only gotten one game with him, so maybe they'll evolve his character a little over time.
Based on what we saw of him in the trailer for the new one, I don't know.
He's very nude.
Extremely nude.
Yeah.
So, did you get to play much else aside from beating up these dudes in this offshore gladiatorial ring?
No, again, this is very much like a light taste of kind of what happens in this area.
Okay.
I assume there's probably stuff happening in Kamurocho and other locales as well, but again, this is a Gaiden game. It is not a full, Yakuza sequel, so I assume that it is probably a little shorter than the main games tend to be. That said, it does seem like they are presenting this as like though they're not doing a physical version, they're presenting this as a pretty significant story thing. So I assume that a lot of what happens in this will probably end up tying into the next game.
Can you talk about the Persona Tactics game?
I can only give you a little bit of that because I ended up I was only caught a little bit of that on the way out. I watched someone else play a little of it. It appears to be a little bit of an XCOM-like, though it is more in the vein of the Mario and Rabbids games, in that it seems like you can kind of free move around the environment before executing your next move.
Okay, so a little bit more. Let's call it real time tactical. Positioning, at least. That
seems to be the vibe. I'll be honest, the reason I didn't really dig into it is because I'm just Persona 5'd out at this point after the Brawler game that I played more of than I probably should have. Not because it was bad, I was just kind of already burned out on that stuff. I'm like, I just don't need more of Persona 5 right now. I'm kind of done with these characters. I'm kind of done with this story. So
look, that's fair. I didn't really even get into 5 because I feel like I had put so much into 4.
Yes.
And so I feel like you get your persona and then you go all in and then maybe you need to like take a little break.
Yeah.
It's a big investment.
So if you're still into it, hey, here's another Persona 5 thing if you still want to see what the Phantom Thieves are up to. But I'm kind of done. And then I also did spend some time playing the Persona 3 remake because I have never played Persona 3 in any form before, and I was curious about it.
Okay. What is your takeaway?
My takeaway is they made it look like Persona 5. They have given it kind of the visual sheen and, whatever engine they're currently using. It might be Unreal, actually.
Just in terms of fidelity or also in style? Well, surely they're not just aping the style of like 5's menus and stuff like that. I assume they're at least trying to keep the visual identity of 3.
Again, as someone who has not played the original Persona 3, I cannot tell you the exact amount of change they have made between them, but I'd say it's more, to me it felt more in terms of fidelity, though the menus do have a similar look to them, but I don't know if that's how they looked in the original or not.
They kind of had that, as if I remember correctly, they kind of had that Persona style for 3 that kind of went into 4 and 5. In my memory of it. So like they already had that stylish menu selection stuff.
But this is the one where when you summon your personas, you shoot yourself in the head with a gun.
I'm sorry, you evoke it. You evoke it. Thank you.
No,
you evoke
you shoot yourself in the head with a gun. Let's be fucking real about this.
God, I forgot about that.
It is true.
Yeah. So I played, they had 2 discrete sections you could play. One was just sort of like a climbing a tower dungeon thing where you're kind of running around and dealing with random battles, opening chests, all that kind of stuff. And then you fight a big boss, was the second section, which was a very, let's just say, sexy demon lady at the end of a subway car.
Okay.
And so, they let you play around with the personas a little bit. You don't have a ton to choose from. You only have 2 party members to work with. But, it's the personas, I mean, it's all the same spells. You can cast Bufu if you really want to. I found actually found the boss fight surprisingly easy, though maybe it's an early one, so maybe that's by design. I am not exactly like a seasoned Persona or even really JRPG person, but I found it pretty easy to slide into it just with the experience I have with 4 and 5. So,
okay.
But yeah, I mean, it looks really nice. You know, they don't really give you any context for the story in this demo because, you know, it's probably like a 100-hour game. So 30 minutes isn't really going to give you a lot.
Look, you're in school. You're part of a club that at night goes and fights some guys.
I'm pretty sure you're wearing a school uniform in this. So yeah, that does seem to be the indication. Whatever's going on there, you know, it made me excited for this because this is the like current slate of Persona games, which I think 3 to 5 is generally how they're blocked off. I don't know what the deal is with Persona 1 and 2, if they're like a totally different thing or if it's just like a more primordial version of what these games became. But 3 is the one of these that I have never tried before, and this makes me like, okay, yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm going to try this.
Yeah, we dabbled in a Giant Bomb and a little of the Persona 1 and 2 stuff, and I remember it being pretty different.
Yeah. That's always been the way it's been framed to me, and I as someone who just doesn't really know much about these games prior to that era, I remember Persona 3 being the one back in the day everyone was like, holy shit about.
I want to say, because boy, I'm going to catch some heat for this. So let's just say, grain of salt, my ignorance, but there's so many spin-offs of spin-offs going on here, and I want to say Persona 2
is a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei.
Which is
that's right.
Devil Summoner, also a spin-off, right?
That might be right.
I want to say there's Devil Summoner, then there's like Shin Megami Tensei, which is a spin-off of that, and then there was Shin Megami Tensei Persona, and then those just became Persona games.
Yes.
Again, could be wrong. I want to say like Persona 1 and 2 were a little more of its own thing, and then Persona 3, very much a Persona game.
Yes. So this is Persona 3, and you know, I'm thrilled that I have now like a new modern way to check this out. I'm sure someone will come to me and say like you should just play the PS2 version, to which I'm just going to say right now, no. If I'm going to do it, this is how I'm going to do it. So unless I find out they have done something terrible to the content of that game in this remake, which I have no context for, this is probably the way I'm going to do it.
Even I have to just throw this. Even the entire line of Megami Tensei games is a spin-off of something called Digital Devil Story.
Okay, great.
Love it.
Which was a book, I think. Yes, that's a series of novels.
I truly love the way Atlas frames this because everything's a spin-off of a spin-off, but then every spin-off becomes its own franchise of games. Like when they were talking about Persona 5, they were talking about the Persona 5 franchise in the initial presentation. And I'm just like, yeah, you do that. You do that every time you make one of these. You make 7 spin-off games of your spin-off series from another spin-off. Fuck yes. Go get that money.
Okay, yes, that Devil Summoner is the other main spinoff.
Okay.
Besides Persona.
The thing I remember hearing, and I'm sure members of the audience know this information more than I do, but I thought I heard some of the stuff from Fez, Persona 3 Fez, which was the like definitive edition Persona 3 style thing that added the other playable character, the female character. Mm-hmm. Some of that stuff is not in this.
My understanding is that it is only the male protagonist, and that is what they showed in the demo, which is unfortunate, but
maybe it'll come in, like they release so many versions.
Yeah, when they do the Royale version, suddenly they'll add the other protagonist or whatever. Yeah.
Or I guess, I don't know, we're out of handhelds, so I don't know where they bring the next version to, so you're not going to get the handheld version. But this is cool. I'm glad they're doing a remake. Persona 3 was my entryway into the Persona stuff, and I really...
So you like that game?
I did at the time, but Persona 4 was the one is like the one I loved the best. I had a lot of fun.
That was my entry. 4 was my entry. It was the fucking, what was it, the PSP or Vita version, I think, right?
Oh, Golden?
Golden, yeah.
Okay.
I played a lot of that on an airplane, or multiple airplanes.
Okay. Some would say Golden version, best version.
I did not play the for a reason.
Yeah, I did not play the Golden version.
Okay.
Okay, is that mostly the Sega stuff?
That's most. I mean, they had a few other things there. Like they had some of their Total War stuff, which that is not my scene. They had that Endless Dungeon game there, which I did not have time to go check out. But they also had the Samba de Amigo for Switch, which I watched someone play for a while, and it's exactly what you think it is.
Okay, shake those
Shake those Joy-Cons as if they were maracas. Yes.
Okay. I was quickly looking behind me to see if I had my Persona 3 Fez Steelbook case.
Ooh.
Which, maybe one of the only Steelbooks I have that wasn't something that was like left in an office or given to me to be like, I don't need this in my life. Remember that Halo? Remember the Halo carrying case that came with like the diary? It was the thing that it was the thing that was inside the helmet of Halo. Like when you took the helmet off, and it had what's her face's like diary as a book in it. Who's the Spartan program woman?
Oh God, is it Halsey?
Maybe Halsey, and
Is
it had
that her
like
name?
I think it was like a diary, a little book or something like that. It was in it maybe. Anyway, I feel like I have that thing, but not the helmet. But I have like this like large Halo thing, which is the other too big game thing. Aside from the Steelbook reminds me of that. Things that don't fit into where you store all your other games, and you're like, crap, where do I put this freaking thing?
You should digitize that diary and make a PDF out of it, and then get rid of the diary.
I'm sure somebody has. I
Store everything digitally.
think it was like a diary. I remember reading her like entries about this. I don't know. Anyway, this reminded me of that. Well, we've got some other stuff to get to, but should we take a break first and come back and move through some other video games here? We're going to talk about Bomb Rush, Fort Solis, Madden, Immortals, a little bit about Immortals. So stick around. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. This week's show is brought to you by Rocket Money. Brad Shoemaker, Alex Navarro. I bet you guys have subscriptions.
I had a lot of subscriptions. I had too many subscriptions, and at a certain point, I had to drill down. I had to focus. I had to make sure that I did not have so many subscriptions anymore.
You had to take time out of your day,
My busy schedule.
your time, which is worth more than anything, to find those subscriptions and cancel. Brad Shoemaker, do you live a subscription lifestyle?
I am just a walking monthly bill at this point.
It's the world we live in. If you need help, boy, guys, I got some news for you. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. It says here that most people think they're spending $80 on their subscriptions, when in reality, the number is closer to $200.
My God.
What are we even doing? With Rocket Money, you can easily cancel the ones you don't want with just the press of a button. Rocket Money also lets you monitor all your expenses in one place, recommends custom budgets based on your past spending, and they'll even send you notifications when you've reached your spending limits. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and manage your money the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/Nextlander. That's rocketmoney.com/Nextlander. rocketmoney.com/Nextlander. Thanks, Rocket Money. And we are back and ready to talk about more video games. Alex, let's stick with you. And I know this says Sega in my mind as well. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk.
Not Sega.
Not Sega, but like
Team Reptile, I believe, is the studio that made this.
yeah.
Yes, the Lethal League developer.
Yeah. This is Bomb Rush Cyberfunk.
Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. Where did you wind up playing it?
It's on the PC.
Okay.
It's also on Switch now, I guess, but it will be on the other consoles in fairly short order. But I've been playing on the PC.
Okay.
Next week, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So I will preface this by saying I played Jet Set Radio Future and Jet Grind Radio. I did not finish either game to my recollection back in the day, but I remember liking them.
Okay. Where did you those were Dreamcast, right, originally?
One was Dreamcast. I think the other one was Xbox.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, wasn't Future an Xbox game, I
Yeah,
believe?
it was.
That was in that weird period where the Xbox became the de facto sequel to the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
All of Sega's development moved to the Xbox, and all of the Dreamcast fans also moved to the Xbox.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it became the holding tank for all things Sega.
And the Xbox adopted Sega's face button layout.
And Sonic adopted Sonic for a bit until he went to Nintendo and said, "There's a home here for you."
Yeah.
There's a home here, Sonic.
But
yeah.
this is a game that has deep nostalgia, both for those games and just kind of games of this general, like, Dreamcast, PS2 era of aesthetics and vibes. And it is cool, is the way I will describe it. And I don't mean that in a, oh, it's just really fun, whatever. It's like, no, I think the thing that's actually kind of cool about it is that, yes, it wears its nostalgia on the sleeve, but it is not obsessively constantly trying to remind you of the things that you liked about the other games, which is not to say that it is not very much one of those and plays like one of those, but it is not being like dropping a million references to those games, at least in the early goings that I've played. It is more like, hey, we're telling our own story, we're kind of doing our own thing, but also we really fucking liked those Jet Set games, and here's our vision of that.
So, are you on roller skates or rollerblades?
So I started out on a skateboard, though in the tutorial you also get the ability to put on roller skates. So I assume at some point you can change what kind of rolly device you have.
Obvious question, are they mechanically different tricks, different control schemes, or is that just a cosmetic choice?
So I think the trick animations are different, but the control scheme seems like it's basically the same.
Are you throwing up graffiti?
Yes, you are tagging, you are getting up, as Mark Echo once put it. You are definitely graffitiing the shit out of stuff. Oftentimes, it is graffitiing over other gangs, though there are also other areas that haven't been unclaimed that you can tag. That it contributes to your rep, which you sometimes need to advance the story to the next objective. You're just kind of, it seems like they just kind of drop you into areas, and then you skate around. There are certain objectives you have to hit, though there are other things you can just kind of mess around and do, and look for like hidden new graffiti that's just hidden around the environment in kind of a Tony Hawk sort of way. And the story is exactly what it should be, which is to say, you are in this sort of like millennial retro-futuristic world where these crews are kind of running whatever the city is, but there's also like a fascist police state that wants to take down all the tagging crews, but then there's also this other seemingly rival crew that is headed up by a guy named DJ Cyber.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a very slight spoiler here, but it does happen in the first 20 minutes of the game, so I hope this isn't too big of a thing. You play in the tutorial as this guy named Foe, who is this, kind of blonde dude who gets busted out of jail by one of the other main crew people. And then you solidify your friendship by doing the fucking, Carl Weathers, Arnold Schwarzenegger thing in Predator, the big hand clasp. And then within a minute, Foe gets his fucking head cut off by DJ Cyber.
Okay.
Damn!
He throws a fucking bladed record at you as you are jumping off a building and cuts your goddamn head off.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still alive?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Because apparently in this universe, there's dudes that just do fucking Frankenstein science. And so there's a whole crew called the Franks. The Franks are a bunch of Frankenstein dudes that throw up tags and do BMX biking and skateboarding. And they're headed up by what appears to be a 13-year-old ginger child who does all the Frankensteining. And so apparently your body was brought to this guy and he puts a fat robot head on you.
Is that why? Are you able to customize your character with that robot head? Is it like a character creator at that point?
So they don't give you the ability out of the gate to do that. They just kind of give you a robot head, and that's part of the story. I assume at some point you will be able to greater customize your character, but the quest seems to be go get your head back from DJ Cyber.
You need that. It's kind of interesting that the head is the thing you don't have. Like,
yes.
And it's still you somehow?
Well, it's your body, and when they talk to Red, who is now the character because your robot head is red, it doesn't really seem like you have retained any memories, just kind of functionality. Okay. And they're like, you used to be this guy named Foe. We need to go get your head back so you can get your personality and your mind back and all that stuff.
Okay,
and
of course, now it makes sense.
And you're just like, okay, cool. I guess I still have all these tagging talents, but that's great.
Those are just muscle memory at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So is the gameplay kind of try to reach these, or quote unquote, platform your way to the targets to tag them? Is that kind of
that seems to be the thrust of it so far? Yeah, is that it is very much like, here's your city. It's got all kinds of grindable areas and places you can wall run off of. You have like a jet boost instead of like a straight up double jump. Mm-hmm. So when you jump, it just sort of like boosts you forward when you're up,
like an air dash.
Like kind of an air dash, yeah. So, and again, the objectives, range from just do these tasks for these guys to like, there is combat. It seems pretty light. It's mostly just a couple of different attack buttons that do different things that are also your trick buttons. Mm-hmm. But every once in a while, it seems like cops will just get called to whatever area you're in, and then once the cops are around, you have to either fight them or avoid them until some greater fight happens. There is a boss battle like pretty early on in the tutorial, and then it seems like there's going to be more of that stuff as well. But a lot of it is just like knocking dudes out of the air and punching them until they fall over. It's not anything that complicated.
Does it seem like this? I've just read some online discussion of people talking about this game, so don't take this as some huge criticism. It's just me reading some stuff. Saw some people saying they felt like it was maybe not as like full of life or bustling as the Jet Set games. Like the city's a little more empty. Does it seem that way to you? I'm going from distant memory here. That might be true, but I don't feel like it's that different personally. This feels like it is capturing the memory I have of those games versus like, just being a straight up like kind of 1-to-1 analog. But again, it's been so long since I played any of those that like I truly don't remember exactly how the cities felt in that game. I will say the controls feel pretty good. Like it has a good feel to it. Comboing stuff is not that hard. Like you can get into a pretty good flow state with it without like too much hassle. But again, it feels like, to me, it feels like they captured the memory of what I have those games versus like, I'm sure if I sat down and played the original, I would immediately start noticing differences. But like in the immediate, I did not notice much.
How's that soundtrack?
Good.
Good. It has
Very
to
good.
Be. Okay.
Yeah. No, like it's a good mix. I mean, it is definitely that like turn of the millennium style, like internet rap is how I describe it. Like people that are just like, people that are fucking around in Fruity Loops back in like the year 2000.
Uh-huh.
But like it's good, like it has that real like kind of electro funk meets sort of like very scratchy, very sample heavy hip hop, a little bit of dance stuff in there too. Like it's got the right flavor to it.
That is Bomb Rush Cyber. I almost said Bomb Funk Cyber
Bomb,
Rush.
one word. Rush, one word. Cyberfunk, one
Cyberfunk.
word.
Currently, yeah.
Good on them for picking a title that it exactly matches the cadence, the delivery, the rhythm of the original title.
Yes.
Jet Set Radio, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, like it sounds exact. If you're gonna do this, like really go for it. Like really evoke the original in every way you can.
All I'll say right now is that between this and Hi-Fi Rush this year, millennial game aesthetics are alive and well.
Good Rush games this year.
Yeah.
A lot of blue sky stuff out there.
Totally. Lately. Very colorful, very cell shaded.
Yeah. Although, like, we should move on. And again, this is like a snap judgment just from looking at trailers and screenshots. Like, the color palette is a little more green than I would have expected from the media they've put out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little more green and less blue, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Maybe this is Jet Set Radio as made by David Fincher. I don't know.
Maybe it's more future where they're trying to harken back to the green of the Xbox days. That Xbox green. Jet Grind was just the name they put it out in the States originally? Okay. But it did it revert back to Jet Set pretty quickly?
It wasn't a Jet Set Radio Future, I think was the name here for the second one. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was.
I think that's right.
Okay, so Jet Grind and Jet Set are the same game? Just different localization?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I had that weird I had the Xbox version of that, and I had the weird combo disc with like whatever Sega Rally game they also put out on the Xbox at the same time. So those are like the first Xbox games I ever bought.
I played a little bit of Future. I didn't play them before that. I did not have a Dreamcast. It was not a Dreamcast good.
I will say in their defense, I just looked up JSRF.
Uh-huh.
Specifically, it's also kind of green. Like the first one's got that very bright primary color, blue, like literal blue sky look to it. But then the second one actually did go in that sort of green shifted direction, so they are actually pretty spot on with that.
I remember a lot of green and yellow in that game. That's my predominant color memory.
That is Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, $40 available on the Switch and PC currently, coming to other platforms.
I will just mention very briefly here, there is apparently some kind of save bug on the PC version. I have not run into it, but there is a pinned thread, I think, on the Steam version that says, hey, we're aware of this, we're looking into it. But just one of those things to be aware of in case you are planning on getting the PC version.
Yes. And again, the other ones, I think, out September 1st on Xbox and PlayStation systems. Moving on to the next game we have here, which is Fort Solis. If you watched the Gamescom opening night live, you saw Troy Baker and company out there doing a little repping for Fort Solis out there. It is a fairly small and contained game on an abandoned space station on Mars. Kind of a third-person narrative game. It is not an action game. It is not a Dead Space. It is not a puzzle game. It is more of a you walk through this space station, kind of uncovering what happened there throughout the course of, let's say, 3 to 5 hours, depending on how much you poke around. And when I say walk, I really mean it.
Okay.
There is no sprint, fast walk, hustle, move your ass, double time it. No, nothing, which...
Wow. So it's only 3 to 5 hours with the fact that you can't move quickly?
If they had a move your ass button in that game, this game would probably come down to about 2.5 hours. Because maybe not. Maybe that's a... No, I'm going to stick by it. Maybe 2.5 hours.
Stand by your statements.
Yeah. So I finished this game. I had to make the choice of, I was playing this last night after I got back from my kids. So I had 3 choices to make. One was, do I go to my son's baseball game? I did. Made the right choice.
I think you made the right choice.
Yeah. 2 was, okay, I'm back from the baseball game. It's now like 9 or 10 o'clock because those freaking games go long. We went out to eat after. He had a great game. Went out to eat after. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to boot up Fort Solis or Immortals of Aveum. I'm really curious about Fort Solis. I'm going to go play that. And then this morning was like, I think I should beat Fort Solis versus dive into a little bit of Immortals of Aveum, which I did wind up doing because Fort Solis ended before I thought it was going to take up most of my time. That game is not... I've seen some people really coming down on that game on the PC side. But a lot of it I can say seemed like it was technical stuff mixed in with some of the gameplay, and I played on the PlayStation 5. Before I bought it, I went to go look and be like, how's this running on the PC? And some people said this is not running super well currently on the PC. So I went for the PS5, ran pretty much fine on the PS5 for me. But the no run thing, man, it's a game that has very corridor-like areas where it's not that big a deal, and then it's got areas that are kind of open where you can wander around the wrong way for too long and then have to walk your ass back the other way. And they don't do anything on screen to point you in the right direction necessarily, aside from, hey, maybe you head towards the lit up parts of the thing outside. But at the same point, you're collecting multiple things. One, you're collecting art, which it's neat, but I didn't care that much about. But also you're collecting the story via logs and stuff like that, which I really did care about and didn't want to miss. But when you punish exploration by making it so dang tedious to walk your ass back to the main path, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
And it's not even like, sometimes it's like, oh, I really want to get this done before a podcast or before deadline or before whatever. It wasn't that. It was more of like, this just stinks. Like this just like, I want to go walk off, but that's going to be a 10-minute thing to go, and there might be nothing there. It might be a dead end. So that look, there's probably a lot of reasons. I get the atmosphere. Should this character be jogging at certain points? Answer is yes at certain points when they are walking. But the other answer is like, look, do we jog everywhere? No. Right? If I'm gonna walk, I'm gonna walk. Okay.
If I'm gonna die on a fucking haunted space station, I think I would jog a little bit.
Well,
honestly,
so there are some places where you're like, you should really be moving faster.
Yeah.
But most of the time, you're like, look, you'd be walking. Most of the time, you're just kind of exploring. The other thing is, I wonder if streaming in some of these areas would be harder. It's a very good looking game with some really nice textures. And even when I was walking up to things, textures were doing that progressive quality thing of like, oh, the text is legible on this door, and then it's chunking in, kind of like it's giving me the nicer version. So I kind of wonder if some of that stuff is a walking versus running thing of like, oh, it is. The world they have built is amazing. There is some real talent on this team. And it is like
visually, you mean?
Yeah, it is a really cool and realized Martian human base, right? Like base on Mars. The technology's rad. The way they have thought through the technology's rad and detailed. The it's very thought out of how humans would interact with new technology on this planet, and feels awesome. Like looks cool and interacts. Some of it just doesn't work that well. The map is on your wrist like a Pip-Boy, but kind of looks cool. It's like integrated how it should and feels like a thing that would exist in real life. But when there's overhead glare reflecting on your wrist as you're trying to read logs or look at stuff, the glare is on your wrist and you can't move out of the way. You have to find a new spot to look at your wrist if there's a big overhead fluorescent glaring down.
Diegetic UI is a very cool thing right up until it's not.
Yeah. So there's that. As the writing and the plot of it, I didn't find every log and video, so I can't say for sure. I kind of will just go look it up at this point. I don't know if I'm going to play it again, but I don't know. It's all right. Like I'm not even
just the overall story.
Yeah. Yeah, like I was kind of in, you're in this game for the story, right? And maybe some of the performances, which are all very good. I think actually performance capture is very good. The performances are good. The story itself feels a little flat, and without giving anything away, I would say there's almost not even that much to give away. So again. Maybe there are more logs I missed that deepen things, but it's if you're in it for this amazing tale of something, it's a little flat. I felt
okay.
Like you're ironically making me want to boot this up on the PC when I get back into town, just to see to see if it's really as disastrous technically as people say, and B, to see what it looks like based on what you're saying, but like the actual game there does not sound like it's worth showing up for.
No, it's almost like it would be a better 2-hour movie. And I mean that mostly because you can probably do a little bit more and have more tension in a movie, where this is kind of a thriller versus like a sci-fi action thing. It's got a little bit more of a thriller. It's almost got a vibe of what is the Machina X? What was it?
Ex Machina?
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina.
Yes. Is that Deus Ex Machina? It's Ex Machina. So Ex Machina. It's almost got that vibe of claustrophobic parts, and maybe something's out there, maybe something's not. You're just kind of you're not sure, but there's a malevolence in here that is also out of your control. It works in that way, but maybe more as a movie than a thing that you're controlling very slowly as you're walking around. You play as a character for the most part who is in communication with another character, so you do have a dialogue running back and forth, which again is probably a good thing for some of these long stretches while you're walking. So there is kind of communication. They have a nice rapport back and forth, a banter. Though maybe they keep it a little too lighthearted for when things are pretty serious and dire, but they kind of address that, and they're like, look, I'm just trying to keep things a little lighthearted here because things are bad. But yeah, I don't hate it. I just think that walk stuff is just frustrating. It's not the end of the world. I think I would have enjoyed the game just a little bit more if I felt like I wouldn't be punished for going the wrong way.
It feels to me like they wanted to do something a little outside the realm of what is normally considered for this kind of space horror. Like you said, it's more of a thriller than it is like an action or a horror game. And I feel like it sounds like they just kind of ran up against some limitations that they weren't quite sure how to solve.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, the running thing could be a technical limitation, or it could be an atmospheric choice. I really
Sure.
don't know. It could be a thing where, like, again, like, look, we're trying to have you in a world that could truly exist. You wouldn't be half jogging everywhere. Which, sure, I get it, but for the sake of this thing, you wind up opening areas almost Resident Evil style with card keys and things. So you open up more areas as you go. And it tells you where to go generally, but you can get lost in the map and be like, okay, I got to go back this way. And everything takes a little bit too long. Even walking upstairs takes a little bit too long to go to. The other thing I'll say mechanically, which I think actually is a bad thing, the most kind of action-y stuff you have are QuickTime events. And they put up those prompts very quickly during things that I missed probably 80% of them. There didn't seem to be any fail state also. It just mostly seemed like you just don't, say you're in a fight with somebody, you don't land the punch that you may have landed in the scene, but you're going to wind up in the same place anyway. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like okay, because I reloaded one 4 times to be like, okay, would this change if I actually hit all of these QuickTime events? And it did not seem like it. It's you just like, more like, okay, look, I landed 2 punches, but my character's still going to get beat up anyway, you know, in this. There's no way to stop this from happening.
That's a little disappointing.
Yeah, but it, you know, like I said, it's the interactivity isn't there. It's more there for, this is more a cinematic game, and you're controlling a character through the cinematic experience more than like a Dead Space or Brad, what's the other one that the Dead Space like that just came out?
Callisto Protocol.
Yeah, Callisto Protocol. It's not that kind of space station game. This is more.
Gotcha.
And Alex, I feel like you and I played a lot of these at Giant Bomb East. Like, there are a lot of like, hey, go into space on this abandoned space station, and we're going to have a thriller.
No one wants to have a good time on a space station in video games anymore.
Yeah. So, like, you know, I played a decent amount in this vein. This is probably the least traditional gameplay puzzle stuff of them. So, Fort Solis, it's $25 on the PC. I think it's on sale on Steam now too, but it's $30 if you get it on the PlayStation. That's a choice you're going to have to make, because if you want to play this game, because again, at last I saw on the PC, maybe there are some technical problems with it. At least people were saying it's at least not optimized for people with pretty strong computers. They seem to be running into some problems. I didn't run into many problems on the PlayStation 5, so maybe that's what my extra $5 got me.
It's interesting to me because that game, you know, everything they've shown of it has been very cast focused. Like, look at these actors, look at this, you know, like look at the fidelity we were able to render these actors in. And I feel like they have talked precious little about everything else going on in that thing. They're kind of trading on the strength of, we got some good mocap and we're doing space freaky stuff. Have fun. And I feel like maybe a lot of people were walking into this expecting it to be like Dead Space or something, and it is very clearly not. It
is very clearly not. If I had to give this like a rating out of 5, since, you know, I did finish it once through, didn't get everything, but I would say it's probably a 3. But maybe you can, depending on how much you're into cool sci-fi shit, closer to a 3.5, 4. But I do really like their art design, their production, and the world they've built, and I do think the performances are good.
Okay. So, I mean, that does go a decent way for me, at least.
Like, I liked peeking around and looking at their world and their quarters, and like, it's really good. Kudos to that team. Like, I can't say enough things about how cool I think the stuff they built is in that world.
It is also very interesting that apparently like 10 people made this game, because usually when you hear about small teams, it's usually not something that is like trying to work at this level of fidelity.
It's self-contained. It is high fidelity, small scope kind of thing, you know? Also, when those credits go by, it's not 10 people. It might be 10 people core on that team.
I'm saying that's the core team, yes. I'm not saying, look, every small development team usually has at least a few contractors working for them as well.
It was a pretty long credit scroll with a bunch of other groups that had worked on it.
Got it.
That's Fort Solis. That's available now. Curious what other people think out there, aside from the technical stuff. Like, again, I kind of dug what it was. It just I think it ran into some gameplay issues that were more annoying than atmospheric.
Sure.
The other thing I'll quickly touch on here is Immortals of Aveum, the other game I just talked about getting into. So I've only made it past the tutorializing stuff, or I think I'm in the second batch of tutorializing, if I'm going to be honest. I made it past the late title card. So I got into past the setup. I'm now my character, Jack, who's Jack's back, and he's ready to take on the worlds of Aveum. I don't
is Jack generic video game protagonist guy?
Jack is JAK, if that says anything.
Jack specific.
Jack seems all right. I kind of like Jack so far, at least in the setup stuff.
There's a specific voice that goes along with the archetype that I'm thinking of, that I feel like there are probably at least 3 or 4 different working actors that can all of whom can produce it.
Oh, absolutely.
On command, where I could barely tell them apart.
So Jack's pretty young. Jack's a little more in line with and a little sassy, maybe a little. Okay, this is gonna sound bad, and
tell me about the sass.
It's not like the one where the woman from New York gets transported into the medieval world.
Forspoken.
Yeah, it's not that level of sass.
Okay.
But Jack is like reluctant hero. He's like, why would I go and engage on this grand quest? I would never do this. You got to be bananas to do this. And 45 minutes later,
finally a protagonist asks the tough questions.
Yeah, 45 minutes later, you are on your path to doing this thing and engaging in this.
Got it.
In this war. For probably pretty obvious reasons, if you were to think about it for 2 seconds, of like, hero's journey style shit. You can't go home. It's kind of a neat setup for the world. It seems fairly original. Like, there's this like rift, this giant chasm in this world that is like an endless chasm that is growing. And as these, this is if you've seen any of the promotional materials, this is a world infused with magic. And there are these nations that are fighting for control of the magic as this chasm is spreading, and one group has pretty much dominated all the others and is taking over, and you're kind of with the last group that's going to be, as far as I can tell, again, from an hour plus into it, what's going on there.
Got it.
I haven't engaged in any of the comboing magic stuff yet, so I will.
Is that in there though? Like, do you know that it's in there?
I do not know that if that's
to it.
I thought that was in the promotional materials of like, do a thing, switch to a different magic, do a thing to combo it, but I cannot say for sure. I have not gotten that far. They do have a colorblind settings out of the gate, which made me stop for a second and was like, oh man. Is this going to be one of those games that is super reliant on what color magic? Like, hey, you got to hit the thing with the right color magic thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be.
Okay.
I did not turn the colorblind settings on yet, but I could see in some of the tendrils of magic already. I think some are red and some are green in ways that might be a little
And I'm
tough.
guessing there isn't a colorblind setting in there?
No. Like I said, the colorblind setting comes in where you usually get that brightness setting thing out of the gate before you even start the game, the auto setting. There's a colorblind thing that comes up out of the gate that's like, hey, do you need to turn this on?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, judging by the material they've put out, I mean, you've played it. I've just seen trailers and stuff, but that magic is very bright and very colorful.
Yeah, I generally don't like turning the filter on right away because, especially the one that they seem to have, which it puts a filter on everything, and actually everything winds up looking a little weird to me. It's not just doing certain colors, that it just puts this like weird filter over everything. So I didn't turn it on. We'll see if it becomes an issue or not. I thought it was funny though, like when you put that up, like auto put that up.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I've got a trailer running. There is like a cinematic shot in this trailer of just like a flyover of a landscape with red, green, and blue tendrils of magic just fucking everywhere.
Yeah, so those are the ley lines in the game. Those are the things that you carry the magic around, and that's, yes. So the red and the green, actually, the red didn't look as vibrant as I thought it could have. Let's just say in that. It's probably the same cinematic I saw from the intro. So we'll see where it goes. I'm going to play more of it. Like
I was going to ask. I guess that's the question. Did it hook you in the first like hour?
It kind of did. I actually kind of liked what they were setting up. I kind of liked Jack for the character thing or setup they were doing. I didn't mind him. it could fall apart. I don't know. I kind of want to just get more into the combat and see what it actually involves, versus, currently it's just been shooting magic darts out of my hand. So we'll see. Very early on. I have no idea. I know some reviews have come out and they've been a bit middling, but I'm not sure. I didn't actually read through. I've just seen some buzz about it. I don't know if it's story, mechanics, or
it seems like the gameplay stuff. From from the couple of reviews I read, it seems like the combat has just not really been doing it for people.
Okay. Yeah, I have to see. I played it on like I said, I played it. Well, I didn't actually say. I played it on the PC. I played with a controller, though I might switch to mouse aim. It feels like maybe that would be, from what I've played so far, or I can tune the controller a bit. It seems a little loose with the controller. I was overshooting targets quite a bit when I was trying to aim. That's Immortals of Aveum. That's $60 out now, or at least it was on the PC, $60. Alex Navarro, let's talk about Madden.
Yep, John Madden's back.
What's up with Madden?
Still making video games.
Leave?
Well, I mean, he left us mortals.
Yes, he's left them. Yeah, he's now one of the Immortals of Aveum. He's out there fucking, like throwing magical turduckens at people. Yeah, so look, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and rap too long about this because, look, it's a fucking Madden game. You kind of know what you're getting into. Here's the quick bullet points, okay?
Give me them bullet points.
They did a bunch of animation work. They're building on a lot of the tackle and, sort of like catch animation stuff they were doing last year. They've apparently fleshed a lot of that stuff out. Did I immediately notice that playing the new one? Here and there. Not a great deal, but as I played more and more of it, I start to notice a little bit more of it. Is the gameplay generally okay?
Is the gameplay generally okay?
Yes. I have not run into many bugs, though I have seen some reports that some of the old standbys are still around, but I have not run into them myself, I will just say. The menus fucking suck.
Is that new?
No, they've been bad for a while, but like, I don't remember them ever being this sluggish before.
Oh, okay.
They've always been kind of slow, but it feels like just moving from thing to thing in that game sucks. And so the other notable thing about that is that I'm playing this on PC for the first time in years. I have not played a PC Madden in ages. It's not like it used to be back in the day where there's like a slightly different version of Madden or like an older version of Madden they're just throwing out onto the PC. No, it's part and parcel with everything else that they do in the console versions. It's just that game. It's a weird feeling, though, because Madden feels like one of those things that is meant to live on a console, and putting on a computer is somehow unholy. But that's not
like
true.
When you said you were playing Madden on PC, like I did a double take of like, wait. I mean, of course they would do that, but really? Like Madden on a PC? Is that actually a thing?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's feature complete. It's the exact same game. It's just one of those things of like, I'm so used to playing it on consoles that like the idea of playing it on a computer feels wrong. But it's a perfectly serviceable way to do it. But still running into those incredibly sluggish menus when I'm playing on the computer feels especially egregious. Like, I know we're not in the PS5 super hard drive fucking no loading world over here, but it should still be relatively snappy, I would feel like, because this is not a underpowered machine. And it just feels like their menu design and whatever responsiveness they have programmed into it is just not there.
I want to say, okay, that's a bummer because you want a snappy Madden. Everyone wants a snappy Madden.
Yeah. I want to yell boom and then be in the next next menu.
And sluggish menus in general just fucking suck.
Yeah.
But I will say, I remember playing Madden on the PC ages ago, like Commodore 64 style PC, but it surely didn't launch. It surely wasn't around. It wasn't originally PC stuff, right? It must have been console.
I want to say the original John Madden football might have been on the computer.
You mean original?
I don't know. I
it's weird. I've mentioned this somewhere recently. I just listened to like an hour, like a 2-hour long interview with Trip Hawkins where he talked very extensively about the birth of the Madden franchise.
Yeah.
Maybe you're right.
It was. The original John Madden football was totally on.
Yes,
it was on
right.
MS-DOS.
Of course.
The Apple II and the Commodore.
Okay.
The one that he talked the most about on PC was was it Dr. J and Larry Bird? That was the big rivalry, right?
Yes.
At the time. Like their one-on-one basketball game was like their first like huge sports game on computer, I think.
Yeah.
And by the time you got to the Madden stuff, it was much more focused on the Genesis because they were trying to really establish dominance on the Genesis to the point of reverse engineering the Genesis and daring Sega to sue them for it. Anyway, sorry to derail this.
No, by all means.
You're right. They were going hard on PC sports at the time.
No,
I totally forgot about that.
Derail away because there's actually precious little else to report on from what I've played of Madden so far. There is a career mode if you want to do that, though they have dialed apparently it back a considerable amount from like those super narrative heavy ones they were doing for a few years there. I don't play that mode, so I haven't really engaged. Because the thing, I don't. I have a thing that I like to do in each sports game. In Madden, it's usually just franchise, and that's kind of what I do. In the NHL games, I usually play the career mode because you can, it's not very narrative heavy, but there's some fun stuff you can do around the edges of that. In NBA, it's usually the career mode because their franchise mode is fucking impenetrable, and as always has been to me. Mostly because the NBA business system is also impenetrable. Contracts in the NBA make no fucking sense to me. The way trades work in the NBA make no fucking sense to me. So it's just, they're recreating that in a way that still makes no sense to me. But I've just never really, like, other than the few, like the first super narrative heavy one they did with Madden, I just don't care about the career modes in these games. But, where I'm playing it, like, again, the game seems pretty good on the field. I don't know if I'm going to start running into issues at some point. They added a little fucking, quick time meter now for passing accuracy if you want it. You can also turn that off if you don't want to do it.
Okay.
But the feel of the football on the field is fine from what I've played so far. I would not call this a massive leap from what last year's game was, though.
Your field sense seems okay?
Yeah, that's...
What's up with the hit stick?
You can still hit dudes with a stick if you want.
All right.
You got a truck stick?
It's not as emphatic as it used to be. They've kind of focused things elsewhere, but...
Hit stick ain't what it used to be.
Yeah.
No. It's, look, they don't have that fucking vision cone anymore either.
I was looking up I couldn't remember the title cards we had during something where they were promoting Madden, but maybe it was a trailer we watched during the Planorama. Sapien technology?
Yes, right. Sapien technology, right.
Dude, Alex, what does that even mean to you for Madden?
It has a lot to do with how they render bodies and skeletons and kind of how they move and how they bend. Because a lot of that, it ties into the tackling and new animations and that stuff, and also like the way catchers catch and all that kind of stuff. Again, this is the kind of nitty-gritty stuff that like hardcore football nerds will probably drill down on in a major way. For me, it's like, oh, those tackles look good.
Sure.
Because they do actually look pretty good.
Great. I mean, it was years ago Madden got to that state where if I walked into a room, it could take me a second to realize if it's a video game or watching a real football game. Like
right.
The kind of two things happened. Madden got really good looking, and also NFL broadcasts in HD, so it's like got that ultra sharp quality to it already.
Yeah,
and started using like drone shots and those line cameras and stuff. So the perspectives even started getting more video game like.
Totally, and the graphics on the field, overlays on the field. So yeah, I'm glad, Alex. It sounds like aside from maybe some of the UI and menu stuff, it sounds like so far. You're mad.
It's all right. Again, I would not recommend anyone run right out and buy it right away. As with Madden, you tend to notice these things as you play it for a few weeks. So I'd say the jury's still out. But right now, I have not run into much that was like problematic other than the menu stuff.
It's not a snappy Madden, but a functional Madden.
So far, yes.
You may not know this, so I'll just throw this out there. Do you know if it's when you launched it, did it launch like an EA? It's EA thing that then ties into EA Friends and its crossplay?
Yes, so that's the thing is, well, I don't know about crossplay, but I will say that the thing you have to do, because I got it through the Epic Store, is
this happened with Immortals, by the way, as well.
Yeah, is that when you download it through the Epic Store, it still has to run the EA client every time.
Yeah, it's the Steam, EA releases on Steam are the same way when I played Jedi Survivor on the PC earlier this year, same exact thing.
Yeah,
and I think when I uninstalled the game, it left the client installed. Is it still called Origin on Epic? I think they renamed it to like the EA desktop client. I think on Steam now.
It's just the EA client now.
I was wondering if that's how they matchmake between consoles and PC, or if they do that or not.
I will say the other fun side of that is that if you try to launch it directly from the EA thing, you still have to run Epic as well.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yes.
like there's some kind of rights management happening.
Whatever
there?
rights management is happening there, they require both clients be open. Otherwise, no game. No game for you.
No dice. Okay, a foul.
Yeah.
That is Madden NFL 24. Currently available. $70, I think, no matter where you're shopping for your Madden NFL 24.
Yeah.
I have a couple of quick hits here that I can run down. I played more Vampire Survivors on the Xbox this time with my kids. They enjoyed it as well. I really, actually, the more I play of it, the more I dig what they did there. It's been a lot of fun. Even playing with them, we've had some like good progress. That game just has a great treadmill.
I'm saying still we need to stream some more of that.
Unlock more stuff.
There was demand when we finished that stream for more of it, and I would absolutely play more of that. Even like I said last week, played the beginning of that game like 4 times now, and I still totally want to do it again.
Look, the kids and I beat a level. All right, we're already past where
All right.
we gotta catch up.
Great job.
That's the Vampire Survivors. They have the co-op out now for wherever you play your Vampire Survivors. It sounds like.
I have to blame you guys and also the makers of Vampire Survivors for I had a brief lull with that game, and then we played that co-op together, and now I'm back to playing at least a few runs a week. So
great.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I played more Moving Out too. That game continues to be a lot of fun. No updates really there, except that I really like Moving Out too. And you guys played a little bit of it on that grab bag stream.
Yeah, with you.
Yeah. It's got online co-op, so you can get your Moving Out friends together to move out. And Baldur's Gate 3, the game I continue to play the most of currently. I am probably... My plan to get through Baldur's Gate 3 before Starfield is not going to come to fruition, or has not come to fruition.
Where are you at, act-wise?
Act-wise, I'm in Act 2, but I am taking my time, just kind of exploring Act 2. And I have not, I assume I will get there, but I have not gotten to the titular Baldur's Gate yet. So
I will say, and I have no details here to provide, but I will say I've heard from a few people that the last act is not the strongest act of that game.
Yeah, not even just that. Like there is kind of a turn going on with that game. Like Eurogamer's review of that game was really good. Might be worth, I mean, you're playing through it, so you don't need to read it, but I found it pretty illustrative, and I've seen the same thing echoed quite a bit elsewhere, like Act 3 in particular, but also Act 2 to an extent. People just say the scope of the game gets much smaller.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And the possibilities seem more limited in terms of how to approach things, and some of it sounds like it's just bugs of like quest logic kind of tripping over itself, you know, in terms of like, oh, that character shouldn't have known that already, but they needed him to know it here, so he, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I'll get a scene later where he actually finds the information out, or crap, like, you know, on and on, stuff like that. But like the general impression I'm getting seems to feel like Act 1 is really the best part of that game, and it makes me wonder if that being the early access content meant it got a lot more attention.
Maybe it could also be a House of Cards thing, where by the Act 2 you have a foundation of choices you've made already, and then you don't pile on more there. You try to resolve, because you set up a lot in Act 1, and then by Act 2 you're bringing a lot of Act 1 with you into Act 2, and so maybe they're like, you know, I've run into things with logic tripping up as well, stuff I've had to look up online that's like, oh no, you take this character back to this earlier place and run through this quest again, and then his exclamation point will go away magically. Or like dialogue thing that's like, dude, I've talked to you 5 times, you've had this conversation 5 times, you should know this by now. So I've had that stuff, but I'm still really enjoying it, very much so. And the only things I would say really bug me about that game are there are points of no return that the game kind of explicitly states for you. I do wish it had a little bit of that Diablo 4 style, hey, this quest spans Act 1 and Act 2, don't worry about it, or this quest will go away if you move into this next point of no return. So I do wish it kind of told you a little bit more, because I'm the kind of person that I'm not going to go through that point of no return until I know exactly what I'm giving up, or if these quests will resolve. And sometimes it's not explicit, and it just says like, I don't know, this quest may or may not work, I don't know. So that stuff kind of bums me out a little bit, because sometimes you put a lot of time into a quest and you're like, am I just going to go through this door and drop everything? If I'm going to walk through this door and then like half the world's going to explode and I won't be able to go back here, I don't know. So it's a balancing act between, I guess, spoiling some stuff and then, being satisfied, let's say. But Baldur's Gate 3 continues to be one of my favorite things I've played this year, and I very much enjoy it.
People sure are horny for that vampire elf.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
No, the thirst is real, man.
I thought people would be going. I really like Karlach, the other character in it. That
I've seen that name.
People like the Demon Lady too.
Yeah, that's Karlach. She's cool. Look, I'm a Demon Lady too.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have got a lot in common. I think I'm also like the taller version, so she's like not even that big compared to me. Like we're both as very tall tieflings. That's about it game wise. Like Brad, you said before, we've got Starfield in hand now. I think we're kind of gonna shift gears a bit to try and plug away at that as much as we can before.
Yeah, pretty much. My game time is a bit sporadic while I'm out of town, but all of my available time has been going into that.
Yeah. So we'll have a lot more to say about that next week.
Yes.
When the embargo is up. And just a reminder, if you're up to this point and you missed some of it before, we'll be holding that podcast for Thursday's noon embargo for that game. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk about the news. Stick around. This week's show is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Alex Navarro, we've talked about ExpressVPN before.
Many times before. We have always said that if you got to go on the internet, wear protection.
That's right. I've used ExpressVPN for many, many years. I've used it when I'm on public Wi-Fi. I've used it when I've traveled a lot. One of the things you can do with ExpressVPN that they would like you to know about is that if you're traveling, let's just say, for example, if you're traveling and you are a fan of some streaming services and you're in a country that doesn't provide you with the show you want to watch, you can change your location with ExpressVPN to one that it does service. ExpressVPN lets you change your location so your streaming service will think you're coming from somewhere else, allowing you access to, let's say, other shows you might not have had access to. And I've used ExpressVPN, and their speeds are good. I did not see any slowdown as I've used it, again, for years and years and years. Pretty comparable to me not having the VPN on, which is pretty important to me. Also, ExpressVPN works on a bunch of your devices, phones, media consoles, smart TVs, and more. So you can watch what you want on the big screen or on the go. So if you want to get access to hundreds of shows, go to expressvpn.com/Nextlander right now, and you can get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. That's expressvpn.com/Nextlander, expressvpn.com/Nextlander to learn more. Thanks, ExpressVPN. All right, we are back. And it's been a little bit. We're in the news segment now. It's been just a touch. I don't know if we actually did cover Activision, Blizzard, Microsoft news last week, but fear not.
That's right.
Brad Shoemaker,
There's always something.
You have pulled the news for this week. You want to start in Microsoft?
A lot of news this week. Try to get through it expeditiously. There's some quick hits in here. The only update on Activision Blizzard is that they have offered the carve out foretold in prophecy by Michael Pachter.
Yeah,
in the UK about streaming rights, which I think wasn't he? He's been banging that drum for months, right? He was like, they're probably gonna have to make a concession to the UK about streaming to get this through.
I mean, it seemed like what they were held up on in terms of their regulatory bodies.
They have announced a plan to hand the streaming rights for Activision Blizzard games off in the UK to Ubisoft.
Kind of wild. I think off air, Brad, we were talking about, is this one of those things we look back on many years from now and say, oh, right, yes, this was published on the streaming service by Ubisoft, but it's a Microsoft game.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Ninja Turtles on the NES was put out by Ultra, not by Konami. Right. Yes, because of the whole allotment of games that yes.
Diablo 6 was put out by, Ubisoft on their streaming thing, but not on the disc. On the disc, it's Microsoft.
Yeah, like the only thing there for me is that streaming is so ephemeral that it's possible nobody will remember in 15 years who streamed what, because that service may have been offline for long enough. It's not like there's a box people can go back and look at,
True.
It's possible that those games won't be on offer on streaming anymore. It's hard to say.
Or in 15 years or fewer, Microsoft might own Ubisoft. Who knows?
Yes, also possible. I mean,
if they're going to get this deal through, what's going to stop them after this?
Yeah. I mean, Ubisoft is not nearly as big as Activision for sure. That's kind of it. They've proposed that deal, and the UK's CMA still has to consider it.
Yes.
They're launching a new inquiry to consider this proposal. They say it'll be done they expect the first phase of it to be done by the 18th of October deadline for closing the deal. So,
a couple of other quick things here, just to bullet point it. I think you might have mentioned, but it's for 15 years. It's the streaming stuff, not physical.
Yeah, if I understood the wording, it is for all games put out in the next 15 years, but in perpetuity for those games, I believe. Like, I think Ubisoft retains the streaming rights for the next 15 years worth of releases in perpetuity, but then games after 15 years, they would not.
So
is how I read that.
On this Games Industry Biz verbiage, they say they will have cloud streaming rights for all current and new Activision Blizzard games released for PC and console, including any releases over the next 15 years.
Okay.
Ubisoft will be able to commercialize and license the cloud gaming versions of any of these titles, adding them to any other cloud gaming services around the world, including ones operating on non-Windows operating systems. And all of this, again, an effort by Microsoft to kind of appease the CMA, the competition and markets authority in the UK.
Yeah.
To say, what monopoly?
Yeah, well, it makes sense, giving those rights to a company like Ubisoft, who doesn't have their own streaming service. Like, Microsoft would want to keep those rights proprietary to strengthen their own streaming service, but Ubisoft has an incentive to get those games onto every streaming platform they can. PlayStation Now, for example.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's where that is.
It's interesting.
Who knows if that'll get pushed through, but it seems likely that this is going to happen.
Ubisoft
eventually.
would also be making a one-time drop of cash to Microsoft for this deal. So it's not just them doing this benevolent,
No.
Hey, get us out of this sticky wicket, so to speak. So I think more to see on that. If that pushes things through.
I'm sure Microsoft sees this as a small price to pay.
Do you feel like they wouldn't have gone ahead with this or announced this publicly if they didn't have faith that this is going to go through? It seems like kind of a big deal to announce. There's probably a million other things that they were proposing that they already got backroom rejected on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I would assume this seems pretty likely to happen.
Yeah. All right. That's the Microsoft stuff. How about 360 stuff? That's the current Microsoft Activision Blizzard stuff, Brad.
Yeah.
360.
I can't believe this day finally, well, it hasn't come yet, but it will on July 29th next year. This was bound to happen eventually. They are shutting down the Xbox 360 marketplace.
Yeah.
You will no longer be able to buy anything that was sold on the 360 online as of that date.
Yep.
I don't have the math in front of me, so feel free to say, actually, I'm way off on this. But I think so far, of all the online marketplaces that have shut down from a console or PC platform or anything like that, this might be the most voluminous in terms of
easily.
what was there.
Easily. What's it been so far? It's been the DS eShop, right?
Yeah.
And the Wii and Wii U. They kill Wii U as well.
I think they are killing Wii U if they haven't already.
I think that might be on the way.
I think they stopped being able to add money to it at some point.
And Sony tried to. Remember, Sony was going to shut down.
Yes.
What was it, PS3 and Vita, I think, and they kind of gave it a stay after the outcry. This one always, to me, was the one, though, that was just this was the thing that drove online.
That's right.
Video game commerce originally. This was the big one.
This is the teetering point.
Not that those other services are not important. They definitely also had, plenty of their own exclusive content, but this one is just huge. There's so much that was on there.
Especially, we should probably just make a distinction for anybody who cares, because I'm sure somebody's shouting some PC marketplace that went under a bunch of things. But this is on console, where you might not be able to get these games in other marketplaces or anywhere else.
Yeah, it's harder because consoles are closed systems, right? You can't just like copy the install directory off or whatever.
Right, yeah.
There are other ways on PC to get things that have not been preserved legally.
Yes, even that, right? I was going to say sometimes those games are just released in like infinite marketplaces too on PC.
Yeah.
But here, you're going to lose access to buying a not insignificant amount of titles.
Yeah, of course they say you can still download anything you own. I mean, it would be riots if that was not the case. But it's a lot of games, but it's also a lot of DLC. Like, I feel like the focus has largely been on the games that will go off of or that will no longer be for sale, but there's so much DLC out there also that is like some pretty significant content. Should I go buy horse armor before this happens? I think I might go. Do you own horse armor?
I don't think I own the horse armor.
Don't?
But okay.
Man.
Well, here's the thing. Like, Skyrim has been out there on a billion different things, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, is horse armor just integrated in one of those gold editions somewhere else?
Probably included. I think. Did they even make a joke out of it at some point?
I think
did
some
they actually
other
make a
games
joke
have.
in some like the anniversary? Well, I mean, in one of their subsequent. Maybe they don't have that much of a sense of humor about it.
I don't know.
But I mean, in that case, I'm sure that content is available in other versions of the game. Like in that case, it's just that's such an infamous one that I kind of want to own it for that reason.
You think it's discounted?
Last time I looked at it, it was
it $15?
No, it was
$5?
pretty cheap. I think it was under $5.
Well, maybe with inflation, the tail has grown in my head. There's a bunch of stuff. You linked the thing from Video Games Chronicle that has a big list of titles, and even they say, look, a bunch of these titles have been released in other versions, whether they're brought forward or ports.
Yeah, I don't disagree with them, but they also do make the point here. They say it could be argued that game preservation isn't a selective process and that every version of a game is of equal importance.
That's right, yes.
And I kind of agree.
I also agree with that, but just in terms of being able to play the game in another place, some of them will be able to be played, some not, though. And like
they did it. Go ahead.
Well, I'm saying, if I'm real here, like I'm looking over this list of games, and there's very little that is actually on here that is like something I'm like hurt to lose access to, from a storefront. Like the idea of, losing access to these various versions of Risk or whatever, like is not really doing a lot for me. But the reality, despite that fact, my staunch opinion is that every version of these games should be available somewhere to experience in one way or another. And I understand the realities of maintaining marketplaces like this and different servers for different platforms and all that kind of stuff. And really, it's like, who the fuck is buying 360s at this point? But, when you turn this stuff off, you are essentially saying this stuff no longer exists. And I think that is where I say to myself, well, someone, if it were up to me, and it's definitely not, my response to that would be, well, this stuff should be up for, emulation somewhere then. There should be an access point for these kinds of things. And it's just, unfortunately, it's not up to me.
Yeah, well, we should be specific here. This list that they provided, they basically did a breakdown of games that came out on the 360 are not available for backwards compatibility on Xbox One and Series. They did not select for games that got a re-release as native SKUs on those platforms. Right. So, like, for example, like I saw State of Decay on this list, the first one. I was like, wait, what the fuck?
Right.
But then I remembered they put out a native Xbox One version of that game with all the DLC, and it runs better and blah, blah, blah. So, like, a ton of these games on here are available on other platforms, even other Xbox platforms, but that's still...
You have to buy it again.
Sucks.
Yeah,
and in some cases, I think they'll have offered a cheap or free upgrade.
Oh, if they can tell if you had it, and
I don't know if State of Decay was one of those. Actually, that may be a rarity now that I think about it. Maybe that was actually not common for those to be free from 360 to Xbox One. Like I'm looking at this. Some of these games inevitably didn't come out somewhere else. There will be games on here that will just vanish into history.
And like you said, DLC for certain games. Also, I'm kind of with you.
There's so much DLC, man.
I mean, this was the age of it, right? This was the
yeah, dude. I mean, all that fucking Rock Band stuff. That was the 360 PS3 era, is where all that stuff first landed.
So I'm kind of with you, Alex, on like, look, if you're not monetizing these versions anymore, could you flip a switch and just say, I don't know, if you plug in your Xbox, like, there's probably an argument there, but then they are selling versions other places, and I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. What do you do with this stuff? What do you do with this stuff? How do you get it out there to be able to be played?
I mean, again, and then rights issues also get into a lot of this stuff. Like, there are certain things that you just can't float up elsewhere because rights have expired, deals have expired, and that's a whole other ball of wax, of companies signing licensing deals for certain aspects of their content that they do not intend to renew at any point, which essentially makes, getting access to that version of the game, ephemeral. And I don't know. Like, I don't know what the solution to any of this stuff is. Like, it bums me out every time it happens, but I also recognize that, like, there is not a business case for keeping storefronts like this open in perpetuity. But it just feels like one of those things that, like, as this problem continues to snowball and we get further and further away, that's just more stuff that essentially just gets thrown into the background and is never accessible again unless someone finds a way to emulate it somewhere.
Yeah, and again, it's, look, you can if you own it, you can download it. There's no announcement here about turning off those servers, but these games, most of these things that we're talking about are things that aren't available on disc, right? So if somebody says, hey, or if we're doing a thing, let's say for work, and like, oh, we should really check out the 360 version of this thing. If one of us didn't buy it, it's not like we can go to eBay or a secondhand store and go get a copy of the 360 version of that game. And that's kind of where it starts coming into problems, because there are plenty of times we go back with stuff and we're like, let's check out the different versions of this game. And so not having access there, it's a little chilling. I feel that. I found
one, a relatively conspicuous one to me, Hybrid from Fifth Cell, the Scribblenauts developer.
Uh-huh.
It was part of Summer of Arcade. I think, did we just talk about this game recently in the last few months for some weird reason?
Did we?
It's a third-person multiplayer shooter, XBLA, where you can only move between cover. It's like Gears of War style snap to cover, but you can't get off the cover. You can only like rocket to other cover.
Yes.
So it's like,
I kind of like this game.
It's this like kind of like interesting tactical team-based third-person shooter.
Yes.
Which, now that I look at it, never came to another platform and is on this list. So Hybrid will no longer be available anywhere. I was sitting in this basement 11 years ago when we got codes for that for Summer of Arcade. I distinctly remember. That game's kind of neat.
Wow.
And that's just a random example I found of a game that will no longer be available in any fashion, as far as I can tell, according to this.
So what you're saying is go buy Hybrid now.
Yeah. Is it even playable? Well, it's probably peer-to-peer because it's Xbox Live, so I assume it's still playable. I'm assuredly next summer going to go on some tear of like, people will definitely publish lists of like, here's the best stuff expiring. Presumably you'll be able to just buy it on the web. You won't have to get your 360 out of storage to make purchases, but I'm sure I'm probably going to end up buying some stuff before it goes away forever.
Yeah, I'll probably wind up doing the same dumb thing that I shouldn't do. Like, I'm with you, because I'm a sucker too. That's, yeah, so somebody publish a list of a definitive list of the top 20 that make sure to check out. I should probably get my 360 out and or I should look at my rights management stuff and see what I have that's not showing up on the Xbox One backwards compatibility list.
Yeah. Yeah, the hope, and God knows if this is actually going to happen or not, but the hope is that this is a one-off on Microsoft's part and not something that is going to happen in a staggered fashion with every platform they put out, hopefully it's not going to be like, okay, 8 years from now, the Xbox One games no longer are purchasable because now they've just got like the Xbox platform, with the full compatibility from One to Series and blah, blah, blah.
And also on the PC parity on a lot of their releases.
Right.
So.
And it seems like they rebuilt their whole back end for One and going forward. So hopefully everything after this is going to stay up for the foreseeable future.
Maybe they get rid of the S versions. Like,
that's how they get you.
We're going to get rid of it. All right. Brad, do you want to move on to Sony's price?
Yes. Sony has named and priced that portable PlayStation streaming doohickey, the giant screen in the middle of a DualShock. Mm-hmm. It's now called the PlayStation Portal. It's coming out later this year for $200.
Yeah, it's still maybe a little high, but it's under
like,
where I thought it was going to come.
Maybe not as bad as I thought it would be.
I was kind of bracing for 300 as the worst case, but also thinking like, oh, 99 would be much more palatable. Like, okay, sure, that kind of makes sense. This is like right in the middle.
Right.
Where it feels like it could have been more, but it's still kind of too expensive for what it is, I think.
Yeah, I wonder how much the hardware is in this thing, like what kind of profit they're turning on this. I don't know. It's still a device that I don't think necessarily has a place in my home. I think for me, a Steam Deck is probably a little more in line, but also not 100% slam dunk for my household, where it's like, look, are there times in my household where I don't want to, or I'm not on the couch, or somebody else is on the couch playing an Xbox, and I want to play my PS5 game, and I also don't want to just do it through any of the other methods that are available, which is like stream it to a laptop, which you can do, and like, you know, use a Bluetooth controller. I don't know. Like, for me, it's more on the PC side. I have to be in the basement by the PC, which is not necessarily where I want to be. In a Steam Deck would be a thing that I would be like, oh, great, I can play this up in my bedroom or something like that. And because I'm a big Steam Link user. So I don't know. I don't think this is for me. I don't think I'm a day one purchaser of this. This also seems like I think that thing that might go on sale in like 6 months.
Could see that.
Like $149.
If this thing got fire saled for like $50, I'd be there immediately.
Sure. Exactly.
But that's not necessarily likely to happen.
Do I love this? Do I still love the thing that looks like somebody split a controller in half and shoved the screen in there? Yes, I do. I totally do.
Weird. It's weird looking.
But do I wish you could take the screen out and accordion this thing down to just be a controller? I also do.
This seems like it's mostly for somebody who's just like deeply devoted to the PlayStation brand, and presumably this thing will just sync with the PS5 like dead simply. You know, I assume the onboarding for this will be maybe as easy as hooking up a USB cable to it and then getting it on your Wi-Fi, and that's it, or something. You know what I mean? Like pairing it.
Like, we're not typing in your password on this thing.
Like if this is if it's seamless to just buy this and pair it with your PS5 and immediately go, and people are super into PlayStation hardware and brand and so forth, I could see it making some sense. But yeah, if you've got a Steam Deck or you're using a tablet for this stuff already, like there are more robust or more functional options out there that also will handle other services.
I wonder if you can just use this thing as like if I were playing Moving Out, you think you could just use this thing as a second screen on a local co-op game?
Probably.
I wonder.
Probably. Yeah, because I would probably just pair with the system and show up as far as the system is concerned as another local controller.
Yeah.
And it would just be streaming to you at the same time.
I wonder. Yeah, anyway, cool. Like, look, good on them for not going to 300. Still a little rich for my blood for what this is. Oddity, though, kind of neat little thing. I don't know if I have room in my Oddity drawer next to my Stadia controller for this thing.
Yeah.
So, $200 in the States, at least 200 USDs. Sorry, Brett, is there a date on that announcement as well?
They just said later this year.
Okay. All right, what's up next? Oh,
old games are hotter than ever. It really feels like we're in a golden age of old games getting remastered and brought back and remade in all kinds of different ways.
Yeah.
And I would draw a distinction here between, say, a 6-year-old game versus a 25 or 30-year-old game.
That would be fair.
Because there's plenty of 6-year-old games also getting brought back, which less defensible. The Seventh Guest VR.
Okay.
This is a wild one.
I completely missed this back in June, apparently. I think this was maybe tied with the Meta Quest 3 announcement then, if I'm not mistaken.
I did not see it also.
It's kind of back in the news because it just got a release date, which is October 19th, and a pretty extensive new trailer. This looks wild.
It looks good.
It looks really good. They're doing FMV.
Yep.
Like, that's the whole thing here. Like, they did Myst in VR a couple years ago, and they ripped out all the FMV in that and replaced it with polygonal models of the people, which is not what I want out of a Myst remake. I mean, do I want a Myst remake at all?
That's a valid question.
But, like, if I was going to play an old Myst, you want FMV in there. Apparently, they have shot volumetric 3D video for this.
That's great.
Like, when I saw they were doing this, I was like, well, do they just lock your perspective when they have FMV on the screen so you can't move around and reveal that they're just like giant sprites essentially? But no, they have straight up shot these people with like 360 degrees of cameras. And you are going to be able to walk around to these people as they play in FMV, and I cannot wait to see what that looks like.
So they don't show that off in this trailer. In the trailer, it's mostly stationary.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also want to see how they do that. Plus, they just give you a cool ghost hand, like a
yes, yeah. They definitely took the amazing, perhaps best cursor in history in an adventure game, the little skeleton hand finger waggy thing, and made that your in-game hands.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're doing all new puzzles for this.
Thank God.
Like more VR. Like there's a lot of tactile stuff, a lot of manipulating machinery type, more VR-esque puzzles. Like they've remade the mansion top to bottom as well, but it's really the video in this that I'm dying to see because I have never seen anything like that before. Yep.
I'm very curious. And it looks from the trailer, like they put this kind of wispy, smoky effect on the ghost and the thing. It looks good. I think it looks pretty. It's pretty awesome.
What they're doing with the video is like the only way they could have convinced me that it's okay to reshoot the video with new actors. Because the questionable acting in the original is a big part of the charm.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what they do with the little kid and the whole end scene in that game. Yeah. Now we need the what was it, the 7th guest fan one in VR too.
Oh god, what was that called?
I can't remember, but it was good.
This looks cool. It's coming to all VR headsets, including PSVR 2, which is good because I really could use an excuse to get that thing out again. Because there haven't been a ton of them.
Yeah, I'm excited for this to see what it is.
That looks rad. Night Dive getting a ton of work apparently. They just announced this morning they're doing a remaster of Star Wars Dark Forces. Like that Quake 2, the Quake 2 remaster they just did barely is out. And they've already got Dark Forces coming.
I'm trying to remember Dark Forces. I don't remember that one super well.
It is. Oh man,
Dark Forces it's kind of a.
It is a classic of the '90s, a classic of the genre. Let's say.
So, Brad.
Oh, this one. Okay, yes, I never owned this one, but I remember this one.
I assume
ruled.
You watched. You kind of went through some of this trailer. I assume.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
What do you think of this redone art?
Yeah, they're redoing all the cutscenes, which. Yeah, I don't know. The LucasArts 2D like animated cutscenes of that era are so iconic to me. Like they have such a specific style to them.
They're basically like raster pixel art.
They're like hand done pixel arts, but animated, like not super smoothly, but as smoothly as you could realistically do with budgets of the era, right?
Yeah.
They're redoing all those in high res. I don't know. We'll see.
They're smoothing it. It's like it's got this.
Some of them.
Okay.
It seems like maybe not all of them.
The ones they're showing off in this trailer, I'm not a huge fan of because they look a little too. I like the pixel. I like the kind of raw pixely stuff.
Oh, do you mean like they're up-resing or they're redoing them in high resolution? Is that what you're saying?
I mean the ones that like the in the trailer they had with the Vader talking to the commander, where they
Admiral Motz.
I don't remember. Like where they show the original and they show the other one next to it, and it's like, oh, this looks like it is redone and smoothed out, and like another pass on it. I'm not a big fan of it.
It looks like somebody Vader.
It looks like somebody repainted them basically.
Yeah,
in the original style, but in 4K.
Yeah, I'm looking at these comparison shots, and I think I see what you're talking about.
Like no, but the gameplay and everything else like that looks great and up-res and fine. Just those. I mean, I like the raw pixely stuff. I understand why it would look like garbage at 4K and fitting in with the rest here, but
yeah. This is a weird one because the Force engine exists, which is a fan-made rewrite of the engine for this game that already runs it at 4K. So, I mean, this will inevitably have a bunch of cool extra features to it and is going to be a more professional thing. Like the Force engine is very homebrew, but like if you want a modern rendering of Dark Forces, but with the shitty low-res original cutscene art, there's that. So that's also an option.
I mean, in this thing, in their press release, you're gonna get modern gamepad support quote, and trophies and achievements and stuff.
Yes, this will be a much more fully featured re-release of this game. but you can just like get a hold of the original game and run it with the Force engine.
Kyle Katarn.
If you want a slightly more raw experience, Dark Forces is a great game.
And buried in
They're
that
also-
thing too. Yeah.
Yes, Turok 3. They're also doing Turok 3,
Oh man.
which I guess they had done the first 2 Turok games, and I had forgotten about that.
I
I mean,
did not know
that
that.
Kex engine seems to be doing some serious work for them. That they have developed as a wrapper for these old games.
Look, we just talked about versions of games, and this is why it's sometimes important to also have those old versions still be available if you know. This next one you have here, Brad, actually kind of got my let's just say my gamer sense tingling.
This looks nuts.
This looked really cool.
Like, when I saw the headline, I was like, okay, sure, that makes sense. But then I actually looked at the work they're doing, and I was like, oh my god, this is practically a full remake.
Yes.
This seems to be a community-run project, but NVIDIA seems to be promoting it pretty heavily. They are making Half-Life 2 ray-traced,
Yes.
but in the process, apparently basically remaking the entire game.
Oh.
Not graphically, not like game logic and stuff is all going to be the same. But they're doing it with RTX Remix, the same thing that they used to do the Portal ray-traced stuff last fall.
Which was pretty cool.
Yeah. But if you get in here and like look, the blog post that NVIDIA put up has a trailer and a bunch of side-by-sides of stuff. They appear to be remodeling and retexturing literally the entire game.
They have those little slider things where you can move the thing around. It's pretty wild.
It is a massive difference. It almost looks like a modern game. It looks really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, not just the ray tracing, although that helps, but like again, they are like all the geometry is much more detailed, like way nicer textures. They're doing physical materials for everything, which is what you need for ray tracing to really work right.
Yeah.
It looks pretty good.
I'm
not even the biggest Half-Life 2 booster out there, but I'm kind of shocked how good this looks. And I don't know if this will just come out for free. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Because they describe it as a community project.
I am so curious to see how this thing runs and what happened. Because, this also has... I don't know what is going on to it behind the scenes aside from the visual passes and stuff like we just talked about. But, there's a lot of physics in Half-Life 2 that have to be computed and done.
Mm-hmm.
And lighting that is cast from the gun, your gravity gun and all those things. So I'll be very curious to see how this runs in the end. It's really exciting. Half-Life 2 is an amazing game.
It is a classic. It broke ground definitely for a reason. Yeah, like that Portal or the Portal RTX Remix thing. Like it was fairly taxing even on my new machine, and
that's self-contained in those little rooms for the most part.
Ran pretty well. Yeah, like this probably will push a good PC pretty hard.
Yeah,
if I had to guess.
I really hope this winds up being in the end coming out A and B being the entire game that comes out. Like hopefully it doesn't get stymied or caught somewhere because super cool. This is the Half-Life we've been waiting for. This is Half-Life 3. This is maybe
go.
You can't talk about a somewhat new Half-Life thing without ever asking the question: do we ever see the completion of Half-Life?
Nah.
Just no.
Anybody that cared is long gone at this point.
Look, Half-Life Alyx probably did fine.
Well, yeah, but
I
that's
think
a
it did
different
more
thing.
than fine.
Yeah.
That's a different thing though.
Maybe we just need one or two more new pieces of ways to interact with games or technology before they break glass and make it the thing Half-Life packaged with it.
I mean, I don't know. It would be such a different thing at this point. Like Mark Laidlaw, the writer of Half-Life, like when he went rogue a few years ago and basically just said, like, yeah, this is what Half-Life 3 would have been. Here's the story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I always viewed that as an act of protest. Basically just him saying, well, fuck, I'm out of there and they're never going to make it now. So, like, I have to get this out there in some form or fashion.
Half-Life 2 is an amazing game. Is that the old games block?
Yes.
Okay. Should we go into the voice of the old games?
Mm-hmm. Charles Martinet is no longer going to voice Mario.
They're gonna go in and they're gonna strip him out of everything. I have to tell a story here.
Mario Ambassador.
Related to this, yes, he's taking on the role of Mario Ambassador. But aren't we all Mario Ambassadors in our heart? I was telling my wife this yesterday. I said, "Oh, the voice of Mario is retiring at the dinner table." Oh, did you know that? And my daughter, who was 8, said, "Chris Pratt?" And I said, I stood up and I flipped the table over and I said, "Get out of this house! Leave this house! You are no child of mine."
Valid response.
And even my wife said, "Oh no! Oh no! No!
Oh no!
Oh no!
We don't do that here on this table.
That's right.
That's not how we live here."
She did like a kind of a wince through her teeth, and my wife did like a.
Yeah.
Oh, is that where we're at? Oh boy. And I think she glanced over at me.
That is where we are at.
To see if I was like okay. And then we said no. Other person.
That's...
Look, forgive your children, for they know not what they do.
Apparently not.
I was more shocked that she knew the name Chris Pratt off the top of her head.
The dude, that fucking like hearing you say this makes me feel like the Chris Pratt industrial complex has to be stopped.
I mean,
like they are indoctrinating the youth.
That's wild. Anyway, let's go back to the voice of Mario.
Yeah, there's not much to say here. It's just a Twitter image announcement that just, he's been doing this since, they say Mario 64, but apparently I believe it was Mario Teaches Typing wasn't the first one he actually did a voice in.
That might be true. I don't know if that one's considered canon or not.
Yes, that is right.
Is that a mainline Mario game?
Yeah,
sure.
Dan Reichert.
That's a very strange time when they put Mario all over the place.
The thing this IGN story you linked, Brad, mentions was those kiosks where he would be a virtual Mario.
Oh, yeah.
And I did not know that those dated back to like the 90s, because I saw one somewhere at
the mid 2000s. I think is the one that I remember.
Yes, that's what I remember.
That must have been them bringing it back.
Okay,
because apparently he was doing that at what I assume was CES, because that was before E3 existed. That he apparently started doing that. That's what they hired him for originally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There were some pictures floating around on Twitter of him in that original setup in the early 90s, and he was just crammed into a tiny little room at a desk with the whole head rig on. It did not look very glamorous, but I'm sure he was having a great time.
I remember seeing it in some Nintendo booth somewhere, maybe at an E3, where you could go up and talk to him. But look, the man has done work.
I think like by the time he did it in the mid 2000s or whatever, he like knew a bunch of he knew people in the press well enough to call them out by name as they walked by.
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that. I think he got very good at it. Was he like a stage actor or something originally?
Well, he was a stage actor, but also he has done film acting too.
Okay, he's got
most
range.
Notably, he has a non-worded brief cameo in the 1997 Michael Douglas movie, The Game.
Oh yeah,
oh,
he's
wow.
like a background character.
He plays Michael Douglas's dad, who is only seen in flashbacks.
Oh,
and it's just, if you ever want to see Charles Martinet jump off the roof of a house, you can do that.
It never occurred to me, but
no,
yeah. Okay,
well, off of a roof and into our hearts.
Yeah. Here's my thing. Two things. Sincerely hope this is not Nintendo doing something to try and get around his union status or something to make sure that the voice gets into the new game promptly or whatever, any of that.
Good point.
I hope.
Yeah.
If that is not it, and it is just Charles stepping away and deciding he doesn't want to do this full time anymore, which, hey, voice acting is tough work. Even when you just say "wahoo" over and over again, that's still work. And I don't want to put too much pressure on the man because he's given us so much. But I just want to present this to him, and I hope this message gets to him. Have you at least considered that changing the voice of Mario might be the thing that finally undoes society? That this might be the last tattered thread of what is holding us as a world and a humanity together, is still hearing Charles Martinet go, "Wahoo!"
Well, I have to assume that this has reached Mickey Mouse status at this point, where the only viable option is to get a sound-alike as good as possible. Like, they can't...
You have to do it eventually. I realize that.
They can't, like, change the voice.
Oh, no, Brad.
The character of the voice, surely.
Oh, no.
They did. They got Chris Pratt.
Oh, we are entering... in 2 years, we are going to be saying, should Mario talk? Because we're going to have... What's the subworld one we have coming out? The next Mario thing that's coming out?
Wonder?
Yeah, Wonder. So once we're past Wonder...
Are you saying that's not a mainline Mario game?
No. I'm just saying because they've shown that. I think we're gonna get Mario delivering full lines with a Chris Pratt sound alike.
Dude, if they decide to make Mario talk like Chris Pratt from now on, I am quitting. I quit. I'm fucking done.
Look, they got to tie this stuff in. I'm surprised we don't have a Super Mario the movie, the game yet. We got to start cashing in on this train.
I have been fearing / expecting them subtly shifting the character designs toward the ones in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just bracing for the characters in the games to slowly start morphing into the ones from. I know they're not that different, but they are different.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
Well,
I don't like any of this.
I'm
like
sure
any of
that
this.
Charles.
Yeah.
Somebody did find it's not in this IGN story. Somebody did dig up a tweet from him from like 2 years ago where he said. Somebody asked him how long he would do it, and he said, "I hope to voice that character until I die."
Oh, no, that is in the IGN story. Until I drop dead.
It?
Yeah.
Or drop dead.
Yeah. In 21.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yes,
a lot has happened in the last 2 years. To be fair,
who knows? He's approaching 70. Maybe he's actually just decided maybe it's time to hang it up.
Also, like, does he do? I don't know what the contract obligations are, but in every like Mario Kart and every appearance.
I think so, yeah.
Every one of these characters he does, which is Waluigi,
Wario,
Baby
I believe
Mario.
so.
Like, is he doing all those? I don't
know if he's doing all of them, but I think he does all of the appearances of the characters he does, if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Like they don't have like a stand-in Mario for like other products. I'm pretty sure he does 100% of the lines.
I guess what I really mean is, are they ever just recycling old lines?
I don't know.
Throwing them into the. Is that maybe that's against his contract?
Well, that's the thing is, if they are doing it, I'm sure he has something in his contract that says I get at least some kind of royalty rate if you were using my voice, even if it isn't new performance.
I bet Nintendo seems to have a particular commitment to quality that they would want to do fresh lines for everything.
According to this story on IGN, Alex, you mentioned it before. He will still be a Mario. His new role will be Mario Ambassador, capital
yes.
M, capital A.
Yeah, what do they say here? He'll continue to travel the world, sharing the joy of Mario and interacting with you all.
If that means him doing his puppet stuff for the children, his Mario and Luigi weird puppet Twitter. He doesn't still do those little Mario and Luigi travel the world vines.
I don't think he's been doing as much of that. No.
Okay.
I don't know. We kind of talked about this before. Like, it seems like the most Nintendo move to like keep him around, perhaps on staff. Like he's some kind of Mario Emeritus now.
You can't let Sega get a hold of this guy.
Like, how does he coexist with the new Mario? Like, what's going to happen when they inevitably have to hire a new Mario actor, but he's still there?
This is going to be a real Jay Leno Conan situation. I can just fucking feel it. Only in this case, I think I might actually be on the side of the Jay Leno in this.
Do you think he like gets along with everybody there?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I've never heard any stories about him being weird or hard to work with or anything. If anything, what I've heard is that he is remarkably pliable and available for generally what people want him to do.
Give me the sessions. I want some raw sessions of him in a scarf and like a beanie going in with some tea, being like, "Are we ready to go? Are we fucking ready to go? I'm ready to go. Listen, hit record. Woohoo! Woohoo! Wee! Ah! I'm fucking done. Call me.
Oh no! Hang on, let me do that one more time.
Yeah.
Oh no! All right, see ya.
Yeah. Goodbye. It's good enough. Can we just do?
Yeah.
No, we're good. We're done.
So it's like Krusty doing the book on tape. Bing, bang, boom, done. Before the guys even put the tape on the reel.
We're done here. Call me in 3 years when you got a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'll be in my trailer. Yeah.
I think. Look, here's my final word on this: is that I think that movie making $1 billion is what forced their hand on ripping this Band-Aid off. Like, they knew at some point they were going to have to make this change eventually. That movie made a gobsmacking amount of money. People were pissy about the fact that he did not have more interesting things to do in that movie. So at this point, if you're going to go forward and you're going to keep making these movies and they're going to keep making probably, if not $1 billion, then close to it, at some point you just have to say, well, fuck them. Let's just get a voice that feels more akin to what we're doing with these incredibly successful films. And then let's just keep him around as the Mario ambassador so that the people who like him don't get too mad.
Yeah. And like, I'm not going to say good on Nintendo, but the right move after all these years was to keep a singular voice for Mario, even if you could have gotten a sound alike 20 years ago, because it's not that many lines, like that there aren't that many things aside from like "It's a me, Mario." So good on them for keeping it. That's the right move. It was great. It kept a real kind of weird, for me, interest in the character. Like, oh, it's always Charles doing it. That's great. Like if they move into a world where it's just a mishmash. Whoever's on the game is on the game doing a Mario sound alike.
Troy Baker's Mario.
Yep. If we're shifting voice actors every game and it's not notable, I think like you said, Alex, it's a kind of a lesser world. Like the world is a little less joyful because of it. But if they get somebody and they get Charles's blessing and King Charles blesses the new Mario, we're good.
If you find the person, stick with them. Don't, like you said, don't bop around. Don't make this, this one didn't work out, so let's try the next one. Like, take your time, find the right Mario / all those other characters, and then hold to it. I think that's the only way to do this.
All right, end the story, but I have to ask you guys, yes, no, in the next 10 years, do we get a voiced Mario game?
Like
Brad,
fully voiced?
Yeah, where he's got lines, where he's just talking. Okay, Alex says yes. Brad, 10 years.
I don't know.
Okay.
They've ripped the Band-Aid off, man. I'm telling you, the movie is the fucking canary in the coal mine for where they are going to go with this. Maybe not to that degree. Maybe not the quippy, annoying, sarcastic Mario, but some version of that.
They are the most stalwart purveyors of the silent protagonist in the history of video games, though. Like, look at even the new Zelda games have voice acting for everybody but the player character.
You bring up a good point.
But and guess what? When they make that Zelda movie, and that makes close to $1 billion as well, they're going to be rethinking that as well.
Well, yeah, you can't have a human character in a movie, especially the main character who doesn't talk. But I don't think so. I'm going to say
no.
I'm going to say they are very traditional with their design.
All right.
In a lot of ways, I'm going to say no.
I'm going to go with Alex. I'm going to say in some Mario thing, some Mario RPG thing or something, we're going to get more than just a "you can talk Mario" thing. We're just going to get like a fully like voice thing. I'm going
to go one better.
Yeah.
At some point, he's not going to be Italian anymore.
Oh yeah. I believe that before he'll talk. I mean, they already took his plumber status away, basically, right?
Yeah.
We'll see. That is Mario, Charles Martinet, aka Mario, stepping down from that role. No announcement on what happens next. That's gonna do it for the news. We've got an email address here that is podcast@nextlander.com. Podcast@nextlander.com. Brad Shoemaker, do you got an email there or so?
I'm going to read one email because I have to go get in a truck and help move a load of wood after this.
Got to move some wood.
But for now,
here's
one email that came in that actually ties into the thing we talked about today about the 360 a bit.
Okay.
From Jeff, Boise, Idaho.
Jeff in Idaho.
It's come up a few times where Brad tries to convince Alex to get a dedicated Xbox to run Rock Band 4. I think maybe last time I brought it up, I specifically said just get a Series S because it's cheaper for it. I want to remind that even though Alex seems against the idea in any case, this will not work. There is no legal way to play Rock Band 4 without a disc, so a Series S will not run it at all.
I don't know if that's true.
Interesting.
Did it not come out digitally?
I think it did eventually.
Huh.
Can you go on the Xbox store?
I'm on there right now. I'm on the Xbox.com store. You can buy the Rock Band 4 Rivals bundle for $40.
What is Rivals?
Rivals is the expansion they put out for 4.
So that includes the base game?
That includes the base game.
Oh.
Rock Band 4 Rivals bundle. Yeah, it does say buy right here, $39.99.
And that's definitely, you get the base game with it.
I mean, you can also apparently buy the base game, it seems like.
Okay. Digitally.
Yeah, there's a little drop down.
Not available separately. Interesting. Okay, maybe you actually have to buy the Rivals version now.
Okay, but that would come with the game.
That's Rock Band. That is Rock Band 4.
It seems like you can't just buy the base game here on the store if you have to change it to that Rivals bundle, but then it will then it'll let you purchase it. But it straight up says under playable on. It does say Xbox Series X and S.
All right. Well, now we're back in it, Alex.
That seems like that has changed. So
get a Series S.
I'm trying to remember when they made that switch over, but I remember there have been a few times where I have thought about just buying the digital version anyway, so I don't have to ever have a disc in that thing. But I haven't done that yet.
I want to say I have the digital version in the Xbox. I have the permanent Rock Band Xbox I have in the attic.
Yeah.
What's the total storage size of all the DLC?
Oh boy! If you give me 1 minute, I can go look on my Xbox.
Oh, you don't have to look. Is it bigger than a terabyte? Is it bigger than like 800 gig?
It's in the hundreds of gigs. I think. I don't know the exact number,
but it probably runs fine off a USB hard drive.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah, I think as long as you have something plugged into the box, it runs fine.
It's not like you have to buy the expensive storage card to put it on or anything.
It's more the indexing of the thing, right?
It's the indexing that has been a nightmare. Yes.
Yeah. You could just buy a fast external SSD to put it on, but not have to pay their premium.
Yeah.
All right. Well, your path is clear then.
Sweet.
Speaking of Xbox stuff, any of you guys look into getting the expanded memory for storage space for?
Well, I have one.
You have. Forgot you have the official.
I bought the one
right?
that was at launch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have used one briefly and then had to return it for a variety of reasons.
Oh, okay. Those new ones have hit the market.
It got caught up in the CBS to Red Ventures transition.
Okay. That is the podcast emailed section for this week. That is podcast@nextlander.com. Podcast@nextlander.com. That's going to do it for the show. We're going to start wrapping up. A couple of announcements here. First one, in case you missed it, the first 2 times we mentioned it, but next week we will be releasing the podcast across all platforms on Thursday at noon Eastern. So if you're over on the Patreon, that's patreon.com/Nextlander. That podcast will be delayed until the embargo goes up for Starfield. So that won't happen until Thursday. Spread the word. Other things going on. We are wrapping up Serial Experiments Lane for the Watchcast. That finale, the 4-episode block or layer block, will be going up next week. And then Alex, what's going on with the Watchcast?
What is going on with the Watchcast? I think we can safely say we have some slightly staggered plans for the month of September. We are going to be taking that second week of September off, as I think we have mentioned before. So that we're just not going to have a Watchcast that goes up that week. But the first week of September, we are going to do one more anime thing. It is going to be a one-off film. And we have each picked a choice that will be put up on the Patreon to be voted upon.
It's true.
And we will reveal what those personal choices are in the near future when that next episode launches. But that poll will be up the same day. You'll have until Wednesday to decide what that's going to be. And then I think for the other 2 weeks of September, the final 2, I believe we are going to just dip back into the world of Hong Kong action for a little bit. Because, Brad, you had expressed some interest in seeing some more heavy hitters from that particular scene.
Sure.
So why not?
I love it. So for folks that don't know, we are trying to run the Watchcast in parallel with the state of the strikes going on, the SAG strike and the Writers Guild strike. So when those resolve in a way, hopefully in a positive way, we will come back to things that are struck work, which includes Twin Peaks, which I'm dying to see the end of. So in the meantime, we're trying to navigate and watch things. There are plenty of them that are outside of that the purview of the strike. So that is why we're doing the anime stuff, and we're going to be going abroad for some other things that are not struck work.
Yeah, and we have potential plans that essentially run at this point through November. Hopefully, it does not take that long, but if it does, we're good until then, and then we'll just come up with some other stuff.
Yeah, so we're kind of playing it by ear, a bit, maybe a little bit month by month here, as because we don't know when the strike is going to end.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on the Watchcast. Thanks for supporting us over there as we try to support the people who are also striking during this time with the Writers Guild and the SAG strike and all of that stuff. Over on the scheduling side too, Alex mentioned we will be off in the second week in September. But we will have a bunch of stuff going up there, including Never Been a Better podcast. We'll have one of the earlier ones will go up in that slot. We're going to be keep it on the schedule. We're going to be shifting some stuff around as we have a holiday coming up too in September. I think that Monday in September. A bunch of stuff there, so we'll be moving some things around. On Monday, though, Brad, you're going to be traveling this Monday, and Abby has agreed to come back and bring Doug with her for some Baldur's Gate 3.
Hell yeah.
So continuing adventures there. So you can tune in for that on Monday. Pretty excited about going into that. What else we got going on? We'll have a grab bag going on this Thursday, and Friday we'll be getting together a little earlier. I think noon Eastern this Friday if you're catching that stream live. I think we're going to jump into some Armored Core, which releases on Friday. You can find out a bunch of that stuff, like Never Been a Better Podcast, the Watchcast, the Ramblecast, over on patreon.com/Nextlander. Also, I should mention, if you're having trouble watching the Gamescom thing, I'm going to try and put it up over on the Patreon too, if you haven't seen it there. So if you're having trouble watching it because of the YouTube stuff and the copyright stuff, hopefully it's up there by the time you listen to this. But Alex Navarro, did you know there is one tier there over on patreon.com/Nextlander that gets their names read on this here show?
This is the first I'm hearing about this.
Really? Then you will be very excited to know there is one tier that gets their names read on this here show. And Alex, why don't you read those fines name for us?
I never agreed to this.
What?
But for you, Vinny.
For me.
For you.
For me.
And only you.
Let me hear them come out of this sweet, sweet voice of yours.
I'll do it for you. Our mysterious benefactors for this week are Ryan Waterman, RRE, John Richardson, Vornak, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Sean Miller, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, The Deirdre Chainsaw Massacre, Gary Pejsky, Robert Fisher, John McInnes, Bunny Fiend is now an annual member of the Make People Say Things Club, Peter Reardon, Thomas Lynn, Jad Rita, Statics, Andrew Jackson, Mega Crane, Razgriz 2, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiepkin, Alex Wu, It's Me JP, Matt Clemens Jr., Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese.
Thanks again to our mysterious benefactors for this week, and thanks again to everyone who has supported us over on the Patreon, watched our stuff over on Twitch, YouTube, listened to this fine podcast. We appreciate it. Couldn't do it without you, so we appreciate that support. I think I've gone over everything that is up and coming so far. Anything else that I leave out? I feel like
the gist of it.
We've had to look at the calendar every 5 minutes this time. Stuff is shifting around as we try to figure out schedules and things. But we try to post it every week, so hopefully that calendar stays accurate and time sensitive. Thank you very much, Brad Shoemaker. Hopefully you enjoy your time moving wood. Thank you very much,
it's not
Alex
a euphemism.
Navarro.
He's actually doing that.
No, wear gloves.
Load up the bed of that truck.
I'll take a picture if you can. I'd like to see what you're moving. Some naughty or some oak. You said maybe, right?
I think it's oak.
That's great. Riff song, quarter song, coda, as we like to say in Alex Navarro, thank you very much. Pleasure as always, and we'll be back next week.